Welcome to All Beings Considered. I'm here with Crystal Heath, Dr. Crystal Heath, a jailbird. We're live in effect. How you doing, Crystal Heath?
I'm good. So you like that theme song better than previous?
You didn't like the last one, so I just made another one that I thought would be kind of like more anthem-like, so we can just play it for a couple seconds and then take it off. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Because I just took all the song, because I wrote this long song about all beings considered, so I took out all that and just left the all beings considered, all beings considered, and then we could just play it for 5 seconds or however long we need to play it and then get it out.
Yeah, maybe we should get some feedback from the chat. What would you rate that out of 10?
We have
one being horrible, 10 being, that's fantastic. That's an earworm. That's gonna like help me remember this thing.
We could go through all the other iterations too. We can go through all. I have 1, 2.
Well,
three,
I think that would be
4,
boring, but we can
4 piled up.
I think that would be really boring for the live stream. But next time you can do another one, and then we'll rate that. And
sure, we just keep rating them. Oh, well, it is just supposed to be a. Please rate it from 1 to 10, everybody. Someone gave it an 8 already. It's just supposed to be a little jingle to start the podcast, but. However everyone else feels about it, how do you guys feel? Levels 1 through 8. 1 through 10. 8 is the highest one we got so far. Should we play it again just so everyone knows it?
No, it's okay. We don't have to like ruin airtime and lose listeners by playing that again. Considered.
And I even made a new animation with a kind of a watery theme, because I figured it would go along with the watery floating viruses.
Okay, so this is what happened yesterday.
It's not moving for me. I don't see it moving.
It's not moving. I'm going to see if I can get a better one.
So you were arrested yesterday, and for taking pictures. Oh, sorry.
No, I was not arrested for taking pictures. It's not illegal to take pictures.
Tuned in too late. Drew gave it 7.5.
Wow.
Okay, nice.
You guys are very generous. I would not have given it that at all.
Well, you give everything a 1, so it's kind of hard. But so you weren't. It is legal to take pictures, but what were you doing to break the law to get yourself arrested?
I really feel like I was doing nothing to break the law. None of us were, and we were unfairly rounded up. And I'll try to get some video of it, but you can kind of tell the story of what happened while I pull up this video.
Okay, I would like to also
or you can ask questions of me, and I'll.
We did have a 9. We have a 9. So let me tell you. I'll tell everyone the story as I've heard it. Crystal hates that jingle. Yeah, Crystal hates every jingle I've made so far, and every song I've ever written except for one, the one that I did for Vegan World Radio. And by the way, if you haven't watched the last episode of Vegan World Radio on Monday, some people said it was our best episode ever. I thought that was really great. That was a wonderful piece of feedback, someone said. So I appreciate you guys. If you want to watch it on kpft.org or right here on YouTube on the Our Honor channel. The story that I have been telling people about Crystal's arrest was that there she was, minding her own business. She wanted to take some pictures of what was going on in her neighborhood. She lives in LA, so why can't she take pictures of what's going on in her town? It seems to me that the cops are armed with billy clubs, truncheons, tasers, and restraints and high-powered rifles and non-lethal rounds, whereas the protesters and everyone in the street seems to be armed with nothing more than the tools to document what's going on. And there was Crystal, ready to document what was happening in her neighborhood to her neighbors. And so she went to the top of this parking structure, and she started taking pictures, but she realized she had not planned for a urination break, and she had to run. So she was going to go downstairs. She was calling it a day. She's like, you know what? I got to get out of here. But the cops wouldn't let her leave. They said, you can't go this way. You better have a press pass. And she says, well, I don't have that. And they told her to go that way. So she went that way, walked about a mile or something to the other side. And the cops there said, you can't go this way. You better have a press pass. And they said, go the other way. She said, I just came from that way. They're like, you're right. We're lying to you. We're corralling you all using what's called a pincher maneuver to corral all of the protesters away from each other so they don't turn into too large a mob, and then they just arrest them in order to clear the streets. And she got rounded up in that. She got kind of lassoed in with she got caught in the drag net like so many dolphin in tuna nets. How's that?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Here, let me show you the video of
Pretty good.
right before I was arrested.
Yes, kettling. That's
These
right.
are all of these police officers lined up, and I didn't film all of my interaction with them stupidly because I was just so shocked that this was happening. But I was like, can I? And there's somebody saying this isn't legal. This isn't legal.
Doesn't seem legal to me.
Because we all were like, we want to leave. We want to get out of here. Why are you not letting us leave? And I was, following orders the whole time. Actually, like what happened was I went over, walking towards the metro station, and there were police lined up there. And I was like, can I get out of here? And they're like, no, not unless you have a press credential. And I'm like, where can I go? And the guy pointed me down the road. So I went down the road and got there, and they're like, no, you can't leave.
They were lying.
We're waiting for orders. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And I was pretty sure once they got orders, then that we would just be allowed to walk out. So we waited patiently. We're like, oh, okay, we'll just wait here then. And then suddenly, they started closing in on us from both sides, and it was kind of scary. And I was amazed. You know how people freak out. Like you've been in the service industry, and people freak out if you don't get their order right or something. Yeah. And here we're literally being handcuffed, and loaded onto a bus. I am shocked that more people didn't absolutely lose it and start screaming and saying, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? This isn't everybody was just like, okay.
Dumbfounded. Flabbergasted.
And it was wild. I've never been arrested before. I never wanted to be, because obviously there's already a target on my back as it is. There's so many people who would love to see my veterinary license revoked for what I talk about. Yeah. And so I have stayed far away from anything that was legally risky. I dot all my I's, cross all my T's. And I had no intention of being anywhere where there's any danger. I went there alone by myself, just to interact with my community. Mm-hmm. And here
you're not allowed to interact with the community if the cops are there. I think, I'm not criticizing you even a tiny little bit, because I know how I know the first time I got arrested, I was not thinking about the things so please don't take what I'm about to say as criticism whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But this is why I think we should be filming the cops, wearing body cams, and also get them to say on camera their badge number and whether or not you're being detained, because that's the difference between a lawsuit and holding someone accountable and being in the situation we're in now, where it's just well, I don't think I was doing anything illegal. Well, who's going to say, which cop?
Well, I have it filmed, and I could have gotten better footage for sure. I wish I had my meta glasses with me. I should have put those on, and but I
exactly.
was honestly
so which one of these?
Think what to
totally.
Do.
I get that. I completely. And I'm not. That's why I said I'm not criticizing. It's so hard to have everything, which is why calisthenics that we talk about all the time, calisthenics are so important. That's why I take pictures of random cops, just because I want to take pictures of cops, not because I'm going to use them. I just want to get in the habit. How are we going to know which one of these RoboCops to take take to court? Crystal, everyone wants to know if you got to pee. That's a good question.
No, I didn't. I held my urine for about 4 or 5 hours.
Jeez Louise.
Long bus ride, as they were loading up all of the people onto the buses. And those buses, I had no idea. You are put in a cage, a mini cage inside the bus. And it was full, so they put a second person in my cage with me. but luckily she was very nice. Like all of us, they were all relatively young people of color, mostly people in their 20s. There was some older gray-haired white dudes, but all like Latino people, Black people.
Yeah, diverse, huh?
I felt like I was the only like professional there,
Well, if some gray-haired people, they might have been ex-professionals, right? They might have been retired.
They might have been. It was really interesting, and people were saying like, oh, they bust in protesters and to do this. Everybody who I spoke to was like, oh yeah, I live here. I took the metro to get here. I drove here.
The busing and protester things is so stupid. I'm so annoyed with that narrative because the 101 is practically closed. There's no real way to get them in there without anyone noticing. It's just show me the video. Show me the video of bust in paid protesters. It's just so ludicrous.
Yeah, let me just play this video too.
Like in a town of 13 million people, we don't have enough people to protest. We have to bust them in. I don't think so.
And you say like ask for their badge number. I had seen interactions where people were just politely asking the police for their badge numbers and such. And this one cop like literally like shot somebody with a rubber bullet, which like is like stop distracting me, and like shot them on camera. I have that.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that too. But I mean, I guess like if I'm being arrested and someone tells me, well, oh, well, you can't come this way, go that way. Sure. Can I just get your badge number and ask if I'm being detained, please? That's how I do it. Could I just, sure, I'm willing to do whatever you say. Could I just have your badge number and I'll do whatever you say. And they usually just, it's like, they'll just yell it at you. And I'll be like, all right, thank you. Am I being detained? And then I'll just, like, I'm super polite when they're being, because they're scary. They're fucking, they're really scary.
Other people asked if they were being detained and they said, yes, you're being detained.
Oh, so. Yeah, then, yeah. Yeah. So if you're illegally detained, though, that's a lawsuit. So, I mean, there's something that, I don't know, not that I've ever sued a police department. I've never done that. But I like to put them on, I don't know, I like pushing back. I feel safer. Hey, I have your badge number. I know who to hold accountable if something really bad happens to me.
Yeah, I mean, can you see their badge numbers on them, or is it
you usually can.
They wear?
With this guy,
I got so much footage of all of these people.
With the riot gear, I don't know. Like, I don't have them. I don't have any real experience. Like when I was so young when I lived through the LA riots. I don't remember. And the National Guard was there most of the time. So, and I also wasn't an activist. Obviously, I was 13 years old. And I've never been in that situation where they're like, I mean, I've been in activist situations where they do this stuff. But look, this is a little different. Let's face it.
Yeah. I mean, here, let's just.
Yeah, someone's calling me a pro, but Crystal's getting arrested in a very different situation than I'm used to. I've never done it like this.
So yeah, they're just telling us to move, and they've like got their weapons.
Yeah, they've got weapons. You've got cameras.
Here, there's so many people on social media who like I shared this photo, these videos, and there's another video too. That's the live stream. That's more choppy and stuff. And they're like, how dare you be there? Like you should not go to these places because there's riots and stuff. And I'm telling you, like, do not believe what is being said on the media, because you have like, this is my city.
Yeah. It's your neighborhood. Yeah.
I like literally took a short metro ride to get right here.
Yeah.
And it's not a riot. Like this protest in that day was not a riot. It was not violent. It was peaceful. Yeah. Everybody there was really good, solid people. There were a few young people yelling like F you to the cops.
Yeah,
which
sure.
I'm like,
also not violence. That's not violence.
Don't do that, but
does not make a riot. If I say F ice, right. Totally. That's not a riot. Even if you were, a riot is when you have full on lawlessness, everyone's shooting. That's the LA riots, the LA Rodney King riots. That's what it was like. It was people shooting each other in the street, shootouts with the cops, shooting fire department. I mean, that's a riot. This is a peaceful protest that they don't want to, they don't want.
And my gosh, like, to be telling people you cannot go and see what's happening in your own city and you can't be documenting it.
Right.
Like
It's
you just need
crazy.
to stay out of the way. Don't you know that these police officers are stressed because of all of this
Yeah.
violent uprising? Oh my gosh, do
Yeah.
not believe what is being said on the media. This is not a violent uprising, and the police are the ones who are instigating everything.
Well, the other thing though too is that whether or not, okay, I totally agree with you that the police are instigating all this and are the ones escalating, and it's not just the police, it's ICE themselves. They've escalated. The National Guard, now the Marines. Those are escalations on one side, but not the other. But the other thing is, our job in life is not to make cops' lives easier or their jobs easier. That's not my job. My job is not to make cops' jobs easier. My job is to be a citizen and push back and question authority. That's how we have a democracy. It's ludicrous to me that people are saying that to you. It makes me crazy.
And I have so much empathy for these cops too, because I felt like, talking to them, they had no power really to allow me to go. They were going to get in trouble if they let people out. They were going to, they were just obeying orders. And if they didn't, they would get hassled by their higher ups, I'm sure. So it's a really crappy system where they can't act independently and make good judgments about, like, clearly this is not a violent rioter.
It's funny. I do, for the first time in my life, I hate to say this out loud, but I do have sympathy for the LAPD this time. I got no love for the LAPD, but I kind of feel them this time because they were just minding their own business. Life was good. LA was at peace, more or less. And all of a sudden, ICE agents came in at the behest of Stephen Miller and decided to start a 3,000 person arrest. They wanted to arrest 3,000 people that day. And what happened? Angelinos stood up against them, and ICE started shooting them with rubber bullets and doing crazy stuff and escalating. They escalated. They're the ones that came into our community with assault rifles.
So
that's not LAPD's
ICE
fault.
was supposed to detain 3,000 people?
Yes. That's how this all started. It all started with Stephen Miller telling ICE that the new quota is 3,000 a day. So what did they do? They went anywhere they knew where illegal immigrants might be. So they went to Home Depots, they went to schools, they went to a couple restaurants, and they just started arresting everybody. They got up to something like 150 to 200 people. Now apparently they're up to like 300, nowhere near 3,000. But they come in with vans, unmarked vans, the masks on, assault rifles, like very, very scary, a kind of disgusting show of force. And people stood up. People reacted. Because you wouldn't you? You would react to something like that. And then it all spun out of control after that. And it just escalates.
Well, it's not really out of control.
It isn't. You're right. It's out of control for the democracy, though, Crystal.
Yes.
Like, we've got Marines in LA.
And here's like the things that people are saying. Let me see if I can go into just people
Oh, Drew brings up a good point. A lot of people ask me that too, Drew. Originally pictured Crystal being arrested after curfew, but she wasn't.
No.
It was kind of like 2:00 in the afternoon or something like that, as I understand it.
I was arrested at 4:20.
4:20. Was that on your arrest? Was that on your paperwork? 4:20.
No, I was just basing it off of the timestamps on the videos that I took. So
after curfew is the main point, though.
Yes. And so many people say I was arrested for protesting. Keep in mind, I wasn't protesting. I was recording and filming from a distance.
Which is a form of activism and something that they're not okay with. If you look at any of the photographs, something that I think is really shocking is that, again, they're armed with guns, tasers, restraints, and truncheons, and the protesters are armed with cameras, phones, megaphones, tools of communication. You're armed with a camera, a tool of communication. They're armed with billy clubs, tools of violence.
Yeah, and I was partially worried because my camera is so big and stuff.
I was going to ask you what happened to your camera.
Would people think that it's a gun? Especially the way I was stationed in the parking garage, leaning over the corner, off the balcony of the parking garage to get down and take pictures. I'm I hope nobody thinks that I'm shooting a gun or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw there were officers up on rooftops and stuff, like looking, and I, got pictures of them too. But yeah, no, they put all my stuff in my bag, and I got all my stuff back. They didn't even like look through my cameras, as far as I know. They just, put it underneath the bus and then pulled it back out when we got to the police station. And we were all like sitting in chairs, hard metal chairs, for like an hour. Once we got to the police station, I had the hard plastic handcuffs on, the zip tie style ones, that really hurt. There are some people with the like rope cloth ones, which I guess were better. One person was sort of complaining, my hand's asleep. And then, they would readjust them.
Oh, so that's not bad. So the cops weren't torturing you, because that's something that the thing about that kettling, people call it kettling because it's kind of like you're pressure cooking them basically. But when they did that in the 60s, that was pretty common as well. They would put on gas masks and tear gas people and not let them just to torture activists in the 1960s. And that's what I was really worried, is that they're just going to keep pushing you into the center and just mess with you to teach you a lesson. I'm really glad that they didn't. Someone asked, Drew asked, was it a smooth arrest or did they put you on the ground?
Oh, yeah, I sat on the ground for a while. They took our picture a bunch of times, and the news media was there. And here's like how I had like no intention of being on the news or anything. Like I had like no makeup on, like just, they took my hair tie out. I had my hair in a bun. And they took my hat off, my hair tie off. And so my hair was just like a ratty mess. Yeah. And I'm like, and all the media, like I saw everybody lined up, like ABC, NBC, KTLA, like all of them, CNN, lined up filming us as we were like being loaded onto the bus. And I'm like, I am for sure gonna see my picture on the news. And I haven't looked at everything, but it was interesting too. While I was photographing outside the Metropolitan Detention Center, there's like these 4-foot high cement barricade things that are like this big and round at the top, and
like bollards.
Yeah, I'm like, if I am able to stand on one of these barricades, I could get a really good shot. And so I have really good balance. So I like stood on this like narrow barricade that was like round at the top with my huge camera and was like shooting down at the Metropolitan Detention Center. And everybody saw this and thought it was like an incredible feat or something. And they're like, oh my God, how are you doing that? You have such good balance. And so they all started taking pictures of me doing that. Yeah. And I haven't seen any of those pictures yet either. But I guess people are like, oh, this is a really cool picture shot. I got to send it to you. I'm like, here's my Instagram. Send it to me. But I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried that they put you inside the Metro Detention Center, but they didn't. They bust you out to 77th or something. Where were you?
Yeah, I was like, are we just going to be bussed like around the corner? But no, we went all the way down to the 77th, which is past Vernon. Oh. It's kind of near Watts, Compton.
Yeah, that's where I thought you would be, was a 77th, but that's cool. I'm glad that you weren't in the Metro. That's when I was talking to your sister, I was like, I'm guessing they're going to take her to 77th, but she's not going to be on that inmate list until she's processed. We're all just we're looking at the inmate processing, because
I wonder, am I on there now? Because like I
haven't checked. Once you got out, I didn't look.
I was just like cited and released,
right?
Others, so I don't know if I'm on any records. And I'm probably like, they're probably
Did they take your picture?
Yeah, they took my picture a bunch of times.
No, but did they take your like a mugshot?
It was never like an official mugshot.
Oh, then you're probably not
behind a screen or anything. It was just like, here's your citation. Take a picture with your arresting officer. And they took a picture when you're loaded onto the bus. Take a picture when you're loaded off the bus. Take a picture after you get your citation. Like there was so many different pictures.
I think that's all just to make sure you're not getting injured along the way. You know, like you didn't get injured on the bus. You were fresh faced when you got on the bus. You're not like Rihanna getting off of the limo. You know, she was fine getting in the limo, and then the other side she's all beat up. They don't want that happening to you. That makes sense, right? I doubt that we could FOIA that. That would be fun for FOIA Friday. We could FOIA your pictures.
Yeah. God, they're going to be awful. Like
But don't you want them?
Yeah, I guess, but it's just not a good look.
Do they have any intention of allowing 3,000 people a day due process? No, of course. That's why they're suspending due process, because they said they don't have time for any of that. But the problem is when you're rounding up 3,000 people, you have to determine who's legal and who's not. And so you still have to have some form of due process. That's the scary part. That's why these activists are standing up. That's one of the main reasons why you see signs that say due process, don't take my dad, don't take my mom. They're taking people who are legally here.
And I want to show this video happened many hours before, when we were right outside the Metropolitan Detention Center. And this is how, like, you can't really get a grasp of the full context just by like watching videos on the media, because I look at this and I go, oh my gosh, this is chaos. Like I'm looking at this footage that I shot, but I know it kind of wasn't. It was this is the scariest incident that happened, and this is kind of what showed me like how I want to stay away from all of this. But it looks and sounds really frightening, and this is when I guess they wanted us to disperse, but you can also see how confused, like I'm not sure where to go. I'm not sure what the order
sucks,
is. I'm not sure.
You know, Crystal, today we were showing New York and Chicago footage today on the show on my morning live stream, and the way it normally happens is they play on their megaphones in repeat, like, you must disperse. There's a dispersal order. Head south on Main or whatever. They tell you where to go. They tell you how to leave.
Hear it. There's helicopters overhead, and that's the thing. Like, so many of us were like, what are they saying? We can't hear it. Yeah. And when we were like arrested before that, none of us heard any dispersal order for that street that we were on. This thing, I got the feeling like, oh, it was a dispersal order, but I'll also show you how they kind of made it sound like we could stay there if we wanted to. But if we went out of that area, we wouldn't be able to come back. But if we wanted to stay in that area, we could. So I'll just play this. And we shit. So there was that loud bang, and I yelled, shit. Like,
what was it?
What was that?
It didn't sound like a gun.
And this looks like absolute chaos, but this is just me like
just shaky cam.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think it looks like
sirens, and you know, it kind of sounds like there's just craziness happening and it's out of control, but it's not, you know. So this is why you get this false sense of what's going on from the See, there's another loud bang. And
what are they shooting?
I don't know if there's these just loud bangs. I think
flash grenades.
But I was also worried that it was tear gas or something, because I did see smoke, and I'm like, well, I don't have any sort of. A lot of people had gas masks and stuff, and there were police that had gas masks and some that didn't. So I'm just like, well, I don't want to get that. So
it sucks. Tear gas sucks.
Have you ever been tear gassed?
Unfortunately, yes, but not in a riot situation. But yes, I've been tear gassed, and it's very this guy they have these guns that they shoot, like kind of centralized tear gas, and the dude like close to me got nailed, and he's like on his knees, but it was so close to me it kind of got me too. And it's really bad.
Wait, why? Sorry, I missed why you were being tear gassed.
It was late at night, and there were a lot of people out at this big festival, and then there was like a fight, and I was not involved, and everyone was leaving, and then the dude next to me was kind of arguing with security, or was arguing with people and cursing each other out. and then he got hit by this projectile. It was tear gas.
Who fired it?
One of the security guys.
Okay.
It was a it's hard to describe. It was in this area where there were a lot of nightclubs. It was late at night. There were a lot of people, part of this like big festival that night, and people were moving around, and they were trying to push people away from this one area. I was already on my way over there and I was really calm, and I had nothing to do with any of this. But this dude next to me that I kind of knew was arguing, and they had these like, they look like guns. They're just guns, and they shoot like a projectile that hits the gun, and then it fires this high pressure kind of cone of tear gas at you, and it hit him directly, and I was close enough that it also got me a little bit. And having not been directly hit, I was actually very surprised how painful it was.
So I don't know, like you can kind of make out, there sounds like somebody on a speaker saying something, but you can't
hear what they're saying
for the life of you. Even, and I'm hard of hearing, but even on this video, you can't make it out. And here, like I took there's like literally just hundreds of cops coming from the other direction onto this street, and we're like, what the hell?
I hear him yelling, move!
Yeah, there, and we're like, fine, we're moving. Where do you want me to go? But this was literally hours before I got arrested on the street right in front. And so after I saw this, I'm like, yeah, I'm happily moving. I just want to leave.
One way or the other.
I just want to get out of there. Can I go that way? Where can we go?
I won't let you guys back in.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Are we allowed to be here?
Let's go.
Are we allowed to be here or
Unless you
no?
have media credentials. If you don't have media credentials,
Okay.
you won't be able to come back in.
I'll just leave then. So he said, if you don't have any credentials, you won't be able to come back in.
Okay, cool. How
And
do I
I'm
get
like,
out?
well, either that to me signals, okay, well, I don't have credentials, so I could stay here and continue to see what was going on. He gave no indication that if I did stay there without credentials, I would be arrested.
Right.
He just like, oh, if you leave and you don't have credentials, you won't be able to go back. Like you can't get back into the park. Like, and I was kind of like, oh, I'd like to, stay in document, but also it feels a little scary. So I'm going to probably leave. I just want to leave. And I went to the parking garage after this and looked down and saw everybody who was down there get arrested. And so I would have been arrested if I had stayed there. So, but this was hours before this happened.
Yeah.
But they gave no indication that.
And you couldn't smell any tear gas or anything? What did it smell like?
No.
Because I'm trying to think, like I've been in areas where tear gas was like really far away and you could still smell it. Like, it's tear gas.
Yeah.
It didn't smell like sulfur or anything, like fireworks?
You gotta go back that way.
Car's over there.
You walk in here, stay back there. Hey. So lawful number, you gotta go back that way. You can't stand behind me, you gotta go back that way. No, you can't stand here, you gotta go back that way.
All 100 to 210, Ramos, verify you have all your squads at Alameda and Temple.
And hear another loudspeaker. Can you make out what it says? No.
No, and these ladies are like, that's my car over there. I just want to go to my car. It's like, why aren't they just letting people disperse? They want people to go. Let them go. Like, what is the problem here?
Yeah.
Why would a cop want
Yeah, Ron. In favor, go ahead and stand at the lawn.
Hey, just go on.
On the north side of Alameda, on the north Heading westbound, move next to this route.
There you go.
This guy's flipping them off.
From where you can see more of like the crowd and
So yeah, and here on the other side, you can hear all these cops coming. I'll see if I can pull up some more stuff.
Never learned de-escalation, apparently. No, well, I mean, they're just going to arrest everybody. That was the plan, was to arrest everybody there, not let them free. Like, they lied. They said, oh, you can go that way. If you go that way, it's fine. Like, they're de-escalating so that people don't get violent, because if people know they're going to get arrested, they might get squirrely.
Yeah.
I've rubbed my eyes after cutting peppers. Nothing. Pepper spray's not so bad. Tear gas, you can't breathe. Like, you just can't breathe at all. It's really messed up. It's actually illegal to use in war, but it's totally legal to use on the citizens of the United States.
Is it now? Wow.
Yeah, you're not allowed to use it in times of war, against your enemies of war. But you're allowed to use it in this situation. Tear gas. Cool, right?
Let me see if I can. So yeah, I think, let's see if I can pull up another one.
Do they make you take off your shoes?
No.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes they make you take off your shoes.
Let's see here.
That's why I always think, like, when I'm in an airport and they make me take off my shoes, I feel like, what is this?
All these police all lined up.
Yeah, with their billy clubs. We're ready to crack some skulls. I saw the guy from Channel 5 asking them, which do you like more, hitting people with sticks or shooting them? I freaking love that. I want to ask a cop that.
Yeah.
Which do you like more, beating people with sticks or shooting them? Here we go, more cops. There's people sitting on the curb over there. There's people minding their own business over there. You can't get around these cops, I guess, huh? And who are these people on the sidelines, Crystal? These people, it looks like...
What, regular people? Just citizens?
Like those people,
there's
yeah.
a lot of media over there. There's just like people like me who are there.
So all these people are getting arrested today too?
I think the people that are behind those cops all got arrested. But the people on the corner, I don't know if maybe some of them, if they ended up on that other street that I was on, a couple hours later, and then if they were among that group, then they got arrested.
What'd they get you for? Unlawful assembly? What?
A failure to dissipate or something.
Oh.
Like that. Yeah. Disperse. Dissipate.
Failure to disperse. Yeah.
Failure to disperse. Yeah, we'll see. My court date is September 12th. We'll see if they drop the charges before then. I imagine they would. I really want to send out an advisory to the press, see if any media wants to interview us about it, because it's, there's this whole narrative that it's rioting and it's crazy, but if you look at our videos before we were arrested, we were completely peaceful and just trying to obey orders, and the cops didn't let us go, and I feel like that's just huge. We were just trying to go home and we got arrested. If the city's so torn by violence and there's so much rioting, why not just let people go?
Yeah.
Why waste all these resources scooping up somebody like me if there's so much violence that you have to take care of?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, how do you know who to arrest and who not to arrest? You just arrest everybody. I think this is the problem. I think the LAPD. Well, the LAPD, man, they've had so many issues over the years. I got lots of problems with the LAPD. This is how they usually show their force, right? But this act of just arrest everybody, we'll sort them out later, is the problem. That's the whole problem. That's not democracy. Arrest them all, sort them out later. What do you mean? You're not allowed to detain people just for being citizens, walking down the street, taking pictures. It's ludicrous.
Was so tedious, the process and the paperwork, and it seemed like they didn't even know there was all these new people, I think, because they're like, oh, we're going to arrest a bunch of people. So here, let's bring in all of these other cops who were like,
oh, so you know what that is? So the reason why that happens, I know why that happens is because they have a bunch of people on the payroll. So like I used to have a friend, he was cyber police. So he sat in a room all day and looked at video and stuff. But on days like this where they have to have all the cops in the street, so all the rough cops are out here. And then some of the office cops are out there too, that they're all scared. And so then the people in the back office are like guys that work 3 days a week or 2 days a week. They're like part-timers. They don't know what they're doing. So you get, it happens. Anytime you see a parade or any really big thing, that's what's going on. That's why all the cops look all scared and nervous. They don't know where they are. You ask them for directions and they're like, I don't know. Because they're not even, they're not like beat cops. You think the cops know the streets, but they don't even know where they're going. They're not from here. LAPD horses from Rooster House Rescue are being forced to trample people. I saw that. I saw horses trampling people, and one guy, it was 4 or 5 horses, while men beat him with sticks. The horses kept trampling on him. Animal and human abuse. No sympathy for any of them. No one is forcing them to have this job. I mean, I can't argue with you, Rooster House. I got no love for the LAPD. I do feel in this particular situation the LAPD have been dealt a bad hand, but I'm with you. They could get another job. Fair enough. You know, I don't know. How do you feel about the horses, Crystal?
I mean, that they seem like happy, well-groomed horses, but I hate to put them in the line of danger like that. I think I don't really get how the horses help the situation at all. So they're
scary. What do you mean? Horses are scary.
Are they more scary than a gun? And
I mean, if they're not going to shoot you and they're just going to beat you with a long stick and you can't outrun them and they're going to trample you once you get hit, I'm pretty scared. Yeah. Plus, they could see you from far away. The cops are up here and you're down here.
Why not, like, if they have trucks and stuff, like, it's the same thing. I don't know. Or like you could have big bikes that do the same thing. I don't.
Oh, well, I get they should use technological alternatives to horses. I agree, but I mean, like, I don't know. They use those horses pretty well. I saw it looked crazy. The horses trampling this one guy over and over and over again, and they would do these turns and hit the horse with their back feet. The back feet of the horse. Crazy.
Yeah, look at these. He's got like a sled on the side of his. They all got these sleds on the side of their cars.
That's how they come in. That's how because you see them when they arrive, they're all standing on that, and then they all jump off.
Oh, okay.
They're all like holding onto the car, and then they all jump off the side of the car.
So I don't know. Like, I think if you're going to get arrested in something like this where there's so much media attention on it.
Yeah.
And like, what if just a bunch of people went to these places and just filmed? And I think it's our civic duty to film the police and see what's happening. And if you get swooped up and arrested, like, make sure obviously, like, I have nothing to worry about. I have no warrants out for my arrest. You got all my ID and everything on me. I don't think there's going to be any consequences.
Probably not, but it's always when you're taken by people with guns, there is a possibility of something really bad happening to you. I mean, this is just so. I mean, you were in harm's way, but I agree with you. Didn't previous administrations deport a lot of people without having to deny due process? That's right. Previous previous administrations were able to deport more people, without denying them due process. That's absolutely correct. Crazy, right? You follow the rules, we follow the rules. That's the way the social contract works. If the police follow the rules, we follow the rules. When the police don't follow the rules, people tend to get a little crazy. They start wrecking things, lighting things on fire. Because if you're not going to follow the rules, why should we? This is what happened in the LA riots. 4 police officers and 21 officers watched 4 police officers beat Rodney King to an inch of his life. And then they were let go. The rules weren't followed. The system didn't work. And people lit the whole town on fire.
I wish I was there to see, because did people really light the whole town on fire? Or like how much of that was the media blowing it out?
No, I mean like Kmart's came down. Like we're talking like large structure fires where like the city was on fire. When I was a kid, you could see the columns. I could see the columns of smoke. Like we could watch it on TV and then walk outside because I lived on this little hill, and you could see the smoke from the city. Just like columns of smoke, like a war. That's a real riot.
Yeah.
When it looks like a war. How do we fix this, says Navia. I've got some ideas.
What do you think?
I think that Congress needs to stand up to the president and make sure that we don't have... Well, first, the judges are going to have to decide whether or not it was legal to have this president bring the Marines and the National Guard without permission of the state governor or the mayor. That's going to be a big one. Thursday we'll find out if it's legal. So I think we could fix this. I don't think it's over yet. I have hope. I just want ICE out of my neighborhoods. I want ICE leaving. I don't want federal stormtroopers around my neighborhood. I don't know if you're on any group chats about this, Crystal, but I am, and I get notifications all the time where ICE is, and when they're close to my neighborhood, it really is unnerving. I'm nervous about it.
Yeah, what do you do? Like, do you go and you document if you see ICE agents?
If I see them, well, like they go to places like Home Depot, but like where I live, we don't have so many laborers out there waiting at Home Depot. You almost never see that here. But the Laguna Beach, almost never here. You don't really see it.
No,
but,
like all the Home Depots here, especially the ones in Burbank and stuff, you see so many people.
Yeah, there's like little areas for them. Mm-hmm. But
I see Susan's on backstage.
Yes.
Can you fill in some air? I just need to grab some water real quick.
Of course.
I'll be back.
Yes. Well, as you can see, I'm happy to have Crystal back. You know, what a trooper. She went out taking pictures and she almost lost her she lost her freedom for a short amount of time. Where I live, we don't have so many of this type of action, but we do have the ICE in Orange and in Santa Ana and in Aliso Viejo, where I live. They're down here, but there's just not much action. I think they're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel if they come all the way down here. They're mostly in San Diego and Los Angeles. There is one area in Laguna Beach where there's like a day laborer place where you can go. There's even signs like, if you want to be a day laborer, stand here, someone might give you a job. There's literally a sign for that, and the city has just kind of allowed it to happen since I was a little kid, and now that's gone. Like, it's there, but there's nobody ever there anymore. No one's there looking for work because they're afraid of getting snatched. They're afraid of getting picked up by Marco Rubio and Tom Homan. And those are two guys I wouldn't want to hang out with. Crystal Heath, Dr. Crystal Heath, would you like to introduce our illustrious guest, Dr. Susan Krebsbach? You didn't hear what I said. Dr.
Sorry,
Crystal,
I didn't have any headphones.
Sorry, I didn't know. I didn't notice that. I'm sorry. My bad. I said, Crystal Heath, would you like to... There you are. Crystal Heath, take 3. Dr. Crystal Heath, would you like to introduce our illustrious guest, Dr. Susan Krebsbach?
This is Dr. Susan Krebsbach, and I don't. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, my microphone was turned away. I forgot. Did she send me her official bio? I know she lives in Wisconsin, and I've known her for a while. And
I
she
have her bio.
was.
You want me to?
Yeah. Do you want to read it then?
Yeah, it's a little long, but I can give you
Yeah.
the short version. Yeah,
Cool.
veterinary behavior consultant, animal welfare advocate, founder of Creature Counseling. She's affectionately known as Dr. Susan. Dr. Susan, and I was going to call her Dr. Sue. I want to shorten everything. That's my. I'm horrible. Has always had. She started before she could walk with a loving and compassionate mother who raised her. She taught her 3 daughters to be a voice for the voiceless, 2-legged, 4-legged beings, even the ones that don't have any legs at all. She taught by example, saving a dog who was purposely chained to a bumper of a moving truck, building bridges for the homeless throughout the faith-based community, and marching alongside her daughters at the March for the Animals in Washington, D.C. She sparked a lifelong passion for animal welfare. I think that's really cool. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering from University of Madison, and she worked at IBM as an engineer, but she's a doctor of veterinary science, isn't she?
Veterinary medicine, yeah.
Veterinary medicine, that's what I meant. DVM, right? She's a DVM, yeah. And she's part of VAFA. She's awesome. I know as Dr. Susan Krebsbach. I didn't know her name until that, but I love the good German name, Krebsbach. I've been thinking, I've been brushing up on my German because, obvious reasons. What do you think? I always give the worst introductions, but Crystal, are you ready to bring her on?
Yeah, there she is.
Hey guys.
How you
Hey,
doing?
Susan, Dr. Susan, how are you?
I'm fine. But I just have to let you know, Sky,
Yeah.
I'm actually Norwegian.
Norwegian.
My maiden name is Iverson, so very Norwegian. Krebsbach is my married name.
You married into the German name, huh?
I did.
Krebsbach means like baked cancer or baked crabs.
I do not know. I've never looked into it.
Krebs.
Maybe I don't want to know, right?
Well, I'm sure it comes from something that makes sense, but translated, it means, cancer is Krebs, but just like we use the word cancer cancer is crab, right? The star sign is
Right.
crab.
Right.
We call cancer in English cancer, but Krebs, they use the same word, crabs. It's a crab.
Okay.
So it's and Bach is I think it's like a baking thing, like a baked crab.
So, Crystal, how well does he know German? That's what I want to know.
I'm fluent in German.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to just to agree to just accept what you say.
Ja. Soll ich auf Deutsch sprechen, wenn Sie mich nicht glauben? Ich kann auf Deutsch, wenn Sie wollen. No, I can speak German, I promise.
I'm trying to turn up your mic volume, seeing if I can hear you better, because I'm having a hard time hearing Susan. I don't know about you guys, or if it's just my thing. Is that better? Let's see.
I'll
Can
turn
you
her
hear
up.
me okay, Sky?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
hear you.
that's
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. And first of all, I'd love to know where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, so you're okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
That's-
and so what happened is we after I got married, I moved to Ohio, and we were in Cincinnati, and so when I decided to go back to vet school, I applied to Ohio State, or the Ohio State, and University of Wisconsin-Madison. I was accepted at both, which is great. It's just that Ohio State was a lot closer to Cincinnati than Madison, Wisconsin was.
Oh wow, interesting. So what was your early relationship like with animals? Did you have pets? And
Always had pets. I had what Sky shared in my bio. I had a wonderful mother who was very, very compassionate about the animals. I have 2 sisters, an older sister and a younger sister, and she instilled that love for animals in all 3 of us. And so something I'm very, very thankful for. And she not only did she believe it, she actually exhibited it. So the dog, literally there was one time we were driving, I was about 12 years old. We're driving home from my grandparents, and there was a dog that was chained to a moving van on the side of the road. And the dog was running as fast as he could to keep up.
oh my gosh.
And his feet were bleeding. And so, and my mom was a very, she always did the right thing, which is what I loved about her. And so I rolled down the window and I said, "Sir, your dog's feet are bleeding." He's like, my feet are bleeding too. He goes, so many times, yeah. And then my mom says, "If you pull over, we will take your dog and to wherever you're going to." So he allowed us to do that, which was great. So now remember, so my two sisters are in the back seat. We get the dog in the car and we follow him. He turns left and my mom goes straight.
Oh, wow.
So we took him to a veterinarian at the it was on a Sunday afternoon. Took him to be treated for his paws. We found a wonderful home for him, and it was so funny. My mom, she had very strong faith. She went to her pastor and said, "I think I committed a sin." She shared the story, and the pastor goes, "I think God forgives you for that."
What did she
God
think
loves
was
animals.
the sin of just like stealing the animal?
She stole an animal, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, so it was just, but she knew she was doing the right thing, and so did God.
So did
Yeah.
God. God was on board.
That's right. God was on board with that. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you were an engineer for
I was.
IBM, and then you decided to get into veterinary medicine. How did that
Right.
change happen?
Well, IBM was a great company to work for. So I started out as a systems engineer, and then went into became a marketing rep, and I was experiencing more success and money that I'd ever experienced in my life. It just wasn't where my heart was. And so after giving it a lot of thought and a lot of support, family support, I really wanted, my passion was and is animals. And so I really thought the best way I could use my skills and my education and was to become a veterinarian. And so that's when so after being with IBM for about 7 years, I went ahead and decided to apply to veterinary school.
How did you decide to get into IBM? Would you watch Desk Set with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn or something? And you're like, I want to work for IBM. They made it look so nice.
Well, it was to be honest with you, is that I had to put myself through school, and this is the early 80s, so I'm really dating myself. And I knew one of the reasons I went into engineering was I knew that as an engineer, and math and science was usually what I did best in.
Yeah.
But I knew that I could get a job as an engineer, and I could pay off my student loans. So that was my initial desire to do, but it really was. And like I said, they ended up being a great company to work for. They were very, very supportive, got a great experience. But it just, like I said, just wasn't where my heart was.
Yeah, the reason why I asked is that I think that resonates with so many people. We end up thinking about, okay, we'll get a good profession, we'll get a good job, it'll pay the bills, I'll be able to pay off my loans really quickly. But then you feel like you just intimated that it's not what you actually wanted to do in the first place. You kind of bought into that whole narrative, right? I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah, which is true, but here's the interesting things, guys. I think one of the reasons I was accepted the first time I applied was because of that experience.
Yeah.
Because I was older, I had the experience of working for a well-known company and had success there, and I think it was one of the reasons I got in the first time.
There you go, all paths.
So once you got into veterinary school, though, was it what you expected? What was your biggest kind of surprise or challenge about veterinary school?
Well, Krista, I think we've talked about this before, it was a disappointment. I really expected to be surrounded by people that were advocating for animals. And I should say for the most part, it was a disappointment because there were some good highlights too. But I really expected to be surrounded by people that were advocating for animals in the same way that I did. And that was not the case.
Yeah. And so what happened? What did you see that raised concerns for you?
Well, I knew that there were probably some uses of animals that did not fit with my ethical beliefs. And so the first thing I worried about was the source of the cadavers that they used for anatomy lab. And when I went to school, so it was first you did a dog, then you did a horse, and then you did a cow. And these involved dissection. And I wasn't against dissection. I just did not want an animal that was killed or harmed for the use of my education.
Mm-hmm.
So we started school then. So it would have been September of 1991. So I met with, although it's a long time ago, it seems like yesterday. I met with the head of the anatomy department, and because I didn't know for sure what their source of animals were, so we were just talking about what was needed. And she met with me without any hesitation, which I give them credit for. And I asked him about, well, what is the source of the animals, and that's when I found out that they were killed to be used as cadavers. And so the dogs came from a biological supply house, which the source was really not known. It's usually Class B dealers, that these could have been animals that were obtained, that could have been literally stolen off the street. I think that's the possibility. I don't know that for sure. But the horse and the cow were animals that they bought at an auction that were brought to the school where they were killed, and then they were embalmed and then used for students for anatomy.
Wow, it's like your worst nightmare, isn't it? You come in, you're looking, you're like, oh, I'm trying to find out where these animals come from, and it's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, it was hard, because my heart just when I found that out for sure, my heart just pounded, and I knew back then, and part of it as I'm very fortunate, I was older, because I was 29 years old. Most veterinary students start when they're 21. Mm-hmm. I don't think I could have gone through what I did when I was 21. So I'm so glad that I had the experience and confidence and the support of my family to do this, because I thought I knew I could not harm or kill an animal for the sake of my education, and I had to stand up for it. So that's when I let Ohio State know that I was concerned about this, that I wanted to have an ethically sourced cadavers. And to me, what an ethically sourced cadaver is, an animal that has either died of natural causes or was euthanized for medical reasons. And that's when I think it was April 11th, 1991, written on, I mean, this was before the time of computers and word processing, actually written on a typewritten page from the dean at the time, that essentially boiled down to that if I would not agree to their curriculum, then they would withdraw my admissions.
And I wonder how many people they sent that letter to who just like said, okay, this isn't for me, or I'm just going to capitulate and go along with it. I
don't know, but I don't think it was a lot.
Did you have any support from other people in this? Because like, if you're the only one and everybody's like, well, this is how it is,
it makes it kind of hard.
Most people just kind of go along with it.
Well, you mean within the veterinary school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, eventually, yes. I didn't know it at the time, and I think I told you originally there were 6 alternative students, and actually there were 7. I forgot about one that a friend of mine reminded me of. So there were 7 of us that eventually, when I found out, so and Ohio State actually did eventually they agreed to providing, but it was how many months later? So it started in April. It wasn't resolved until August. We were starting in September, and they eventually did agree to providing ethically sourced cadavers for me. And then, but I did not have to pay for them. I didn't have to identify them. Ohio State actually did it all, which I give them credit for. And they did the embalming, all of that. But there were 6 other students that joined me when they found out that I wanted ethically sourced cadavers. And of course, you don't know anyone. Chris, remember that we don't know anyone when we first start school.
Yeah.
And several of them approached me, and when they found out that I was doing this, and they joined me on this venture that didn't start. It wasn't just in your first year, but it continued throughout our entire tenure at vet school for 4 years.
Yeah, but then you also reached out to Gary Francione, or he reached out to you. How did that connection happen?
Well, so as you can imagine, I was scared, that I wouldn't be accepted to veterinary school, and I wanted to be a veterinarian. Mm-hmm. However, I was not willing to compromise my ethics to do it. And so I reached out to the Association of Veterinarians for Animal Rights, or AVAR, which you're familiar with. I know before your time, Crystal, but they eventually became Humane Society Veterinary Medical Alliance, and now they're Humane Veterinary Medical Alliance. But I reached out to them. They are the ones that encouraged me to reach out to Gary Francione, who actually was the attorney who represented a woman a year ahead of me in school. Her name is Jennifer Kinsinger, who really pushed for the ending of terminal, not performing terminal surgeries in her while she was at vet school. So there was already some history there. So I reached out to him, and he basically, in the way, even though. And I think you had asked me, Crystal, was it ethics that drove you? Was it emotion? Was it your religious beliefs? And it really was all three. But the foundation of it really are my ethics. Yeah. And so, but the way the law looks at it is religious beliefs, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially, Gary Francione said that they would not, because they're a public institution, Ohio State's a public institution. Yeah. If they did not provide me with an ethically sourced cadaver, then they would be in violation of my religious rights. And that's a little scary, because by law, public institutions need to comply to if there's a difference, if religion is involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at this point, at what point are you vegan, right? I mean, are you still eating animals at this point in your life?
Oh,
you're like,
boy.
No. Well, I mean, I gotta ask, because
that's a good question, Sky. I mean, so remember, I was 21 when I started vet school, soon to be 30, but it was when I was about 26 years old. And I was so wonderful. I had this wonderful mentor, Linda Richardson, who is just really. I got involved with her with my work with companion animals when I was in Cincinnati, and she guided me along that path. And I remember, I'll never forget this, you guys. I was sitting in the kitchen, and I thought, I wouldn't eat my dog or my cat, and I was a meat and potatoes gal. And so
American Wisconsinite.
That's right. True. Yeah, absolutely, to the heart. And I remember looking at my dog and my dogs and my cats at the time. I thought I would never eat them. How could I eat another species? A cow, a chicken, a pig, whatever. And it was then that I decided I would be a vegetarian. So,
and how old were you when you made this realization?
I was 26.
Oh, wow.
26. So before I started vet school.
26 is key, because at 25 you develop a frontal lobe. You can start thinking for yourself. You stop just bowing to the people in power, and you develop your identity, which is why I think it's key. People have to go to vet school after they're 25.
It's true. It's true.
All of the ones who go to vet school before 25, they don't push back on some of the BS that we're taught.
Yeah. But it was it. So I became a vegetarian. And was a vegetarian for a couple of years, and then decided to become vegan, and really my husband at the time joined me in being a vegetarian about a year after I did. But it was him that said, Susan, if we're going to do this, we need to be vegans, because because by not being vegan, you're still supporting supporting the youth of animal, or the killing of animals.
Right. The same industry. They're not,
same industry, right.
We try to separate in our brains. I was the same way. I was 26. Right. I had been vegetarian, but then I went vegan at 26 because of that. And I can't separate these two things, because they're not the same. They are the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, what some people don't realize is that in order for a cow to produce milk, they have to become pregnant. And you'd be amazed at how many really smart people I've talked to that don't realize this connection. And then what happens to majority of the male cows is they become veal calves. And that's a terrible, they're kept in very confined areas, and calves are very, very playful, just like puppies are, right? And they have to be confined in a very small space. And then after 6 months, in order to keep their meat really tender, And after 6 months, they're sent to slaughter.
Yeah.
And then most of the female cows become dairy cows again.
Right.
And there's so many people that don't understand that connection. And I didn't either, really, until I really started looking into it.
Yeah, for years I thought that they got cows pregnant one time and that was it. And then if you because you hear about human women giving milk for years, right? They for years and years and years sometimes.
But not 100 pounds a day.
Right, not 100 pounds. But I mean, what do I know how many pounds?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, if a human woman can give birth, can give milk for 10 years, some of these like wet nurses, you hear these stories, then why can't a cow? I had no idea. I thought, okay, I was stupid.
Well, no, it's just uninformed, Sky, and that's what and that's understandable. And I don't think I was stupid. I was just uninformed. Yeah. And when I started learning more about it, we were tricked. Right. Well, and there's a lot of people that I share this with that don't even realize that the cows had to become pregnant in order to produce milk.
That's even worse than me. Yeah.
Right. And so when I realized that, that's when it was really, like I said it was my husband at the time that said, we need to become vegan, and then we did together, and that was probably maybe 2 or 3 years later.
And did you go through like any difficulty with that transition? Because it's back then too, there wasn't a whole lot of vegan options, and our whole American diet is centered around we get our protein from animals,
right,
and a lot of people have issues with it.
Right. Well, it was one of those things. Once you make the decision, the hardest time is when you're going out to dinner, which isn't so much of an issue now, but going out to dinner, finding something that you can eat. Even harder than that is when you leave the United States. And so I remember there was one time we went to Mexico, and we spent an hour looking for a restaurant where we could actually have, there would be something that we could eat. And so you make, it's one of those things that you just become creative. And I'm not a cook at all, actually. I'm trying to be better. And so, but it's about being, being creative about those horses. But it is tougher, especially being in America's Dairyland in Wisconsin. So when we moved back after I graduated from vet school, I would say the hardest part was remaining vegan.
Yeah, when I was in Madison, there were only 2 vegan restaurants, and they're just kind of like fast foody little spots. It's hard to go out for a dinner with somebody, and
it's different now, Sky. So I invite you back.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
I'll take. There's this great place. It's called the Green Owl, and my sister and I just went there on Sunday, and I would love to take you there.
I would love to.
Yeah, it's to die for.
I was there a few years ago when I did the PETA thing, and we didn't have that many options, so I'd love to.
A lot more now.
So back to your vet school life. You not only did you have to be a conscientious objector to the cadaver lab, but in your surgical lab too, you had to once again have some sort of alternative. So what was that like? And you mentioned that there were 6 others.
Seven. Total of 7 of us. Six others. Total of 7 with me. Right.
Who took this alternative track. So what was it like to be on this alternative track, and how did the other students treat you?
For the most part, and I give them credit here, I didn't feel like I mean, were there times that they were like, oh, that's just Susan talking again, Yeah, but I did not feel like I was alienated from my classmates. As a matter of fact, I'm so close with a lot of them. They didn't choose the same choices that I did. And so that was good. Did you feel different? Did it feel different? Sure. But I never, especially it was so great to have 7 other people that agreed with me, so feeling like I wasn't alone. And Crystal, you know what that's like. And so I just, for me, it wasn't as traumatic experience with my relationship with my classmates as well as the faculty. For the most part, I think that they were very accommodating. Okay. Yeah. What was hard, Crystal, is that when we did our, because the 7 of us did not agree to doing the terminal surgeries. And for people who aren't aware with that term, what that means is that you take a live, healthy dog, usually a dog, you perform whatever procedure it is that you're learning that day. So it might be doing a spay, or going ahead and doing a cystotomy, or multiple different things. And then you kill them at the end of it.
Right, they never wake up, right? I mean, sorry.
They never wake up.
Because we got. I know that we've got some veterinarians in the house. We have some non-vets too.
Right.
So you
they
perform.
Never wake up.
Right, they're teaching you how to perform some procedure, and then before they would normally wake up, you just don't let them wake up, I guess.
Correct. They euthanize them, it's hard for me to use the term euthanasia because I look at that as being
right.
Yeah, they're killed.
Right, they're killed because they're no longer of use. It's not because they're in some kind of euthanasia. You're absolutely right. It's like when they're a mercy killing, if you will,
right.
some kind
That's
of.
what euthanasia is, right?
Right, but this isn't that. This is you've served your purpose as far as we're concerned. So we don't need you anymore. Into the trash heap you go, and that's unthinkable to me and to you apparently as well.
So what we did is that we used ethically sourced cadavers to perform whatever the procedure was. And at the time, you had three people per group. So you had the surgeon, you have the assistant, and then you have an anesthesiologist. Okay. So of course our animals were dead. So it was really hard to do anesthesiology at that point. So what they did is they broke us into two. So it was the surgeon and then we'll talk about how we learned anesthesiology later, and the assistant. But we had to do it in the same room that all the terminal surgeries were being done. Okay. And there was a reason for that though, because that's where the instructors were, right? Mm-hmm. So they couldn't put us in a separate room and then and then be able to help out if we had any questions and things like that. And Chris, I think you asked me at one point, how did I deal with that? It was hard, and what we often do in situations like that is we compartmentalize. We just all I did was concentrate on the task at hand. However, I do remember there was one beautiful white dog who was pregnant.
Oh.
And I was the surgeon at the time, but she was right over to my right. And I remember seeing them walk her in, anesthetize her. Now remember, these dogs have been there for a couple of days because they had to be examined. They had to have lab work done like you normally would with any companion animal that you're about to do surgery on. But I see her walk in and then anesthetize and laying on the table. And that still haunts me, that I can see that one. For the most part, I didn't even look up. I just concentrated on because it was too hard. But I remember the one white pregnant dog that will always be in my thoughts, prayers, and fears.
Do you remember what kind of surgeries they were doing on the dogs? Like, would there have been any way to just be like, no, don't inject the pink juice. Like, let's just wake these up and recover them and shave them.
It varied. So it would be like things like the neuropathies. There would be ovarian hysterectomies. There would be where you'd actually. There was just multiple different ones. One, actually fixing a fracture repair. All these kind of things. And
did they purposefully break a leg in order to repair the fracture?
They did, but after the animal was anesthetized.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Wow. Oof.
So yeah,
that makes me think. Crystal always tells this story about a veterinarian who beat a dog with a blunt instrument, and then his semester project was repairing all the damage. Yeah. I wonder if was the animal anesthetized when that was happening. I always imagine.
Yeah. That's what
but not, after they woke up each time, they do a series of surgeries.
No, back then, they killed them after every single procedure. So in the 1980s, when Holly Cheever, I told you, that's what they would, that was just worse. They would perform the procedure on an animal and then wake them up only to do another unnecessary procedure. By the time of the 1990s, what they were doing is they were using one animal for one procedure and then killing them at the end of it, and then bringing in another animal, doing the unnecessary procedure, and then killing them.
Yeah, exactly.
So it changed in in a 10-year time period or so.
And this is in the United States. I mean, I know that in the UK they have similar issues because of the story of the little brown dog and some of the famous ones of animal abuse. But man, it's just it seems like ancient history. But you're talking about the 80s and 90s. This is not that long ago.
I know, but that's and you would think, here we are in 2025. Would we believe what's going on in our world right now would be going on?
Totally.
I'm
always. I'm a history buff, and I think about that too. But in the cases of animal rights and animal welfare, whatever we want to call thinking and caring about animals, you feel like we've come so far, and then it's like, well, they were doing this stuff. Just how is it in 2025 that we're still doing terminal surgeries? I know a lot of places are still doing it.
Yeah, most schools still do terminal surgeries. And we're
more for large animals, not for small animals.
There's still some schools that still do small animals too.
But more are doing, which is the right thing to do. So what you want to do is you want to do the same procedure over and over again. So what helps you with is tissue handling, anesthesia, hemostasis, and we become confident in it. So when you're presented with a novel surgery, it's not as frightening. So that's why most students that I know here at the University of Wisconsin, they're involved with spays and neuters, something that's needed. As a matter of fact, it was probably 20 plus years. I was involved with, used to be Dane County Friends of Ferals, which is an organization that I started in my garage in 2001. And now it's called Madison Cat Project, but we used to have monthly spay neuter clinics, where students would come and help. And they had several veterinarians that were supervising them, probably more so than what they got in school. And so when you're exposed to the same procedure over and over again, you learn those basic principles of of doing surgery. And so more and more schools are going towards that, where they're helping the animals and then they're returning them to the shelters. So they're already spayed and neutered. All right. It's well,
that makes a little bit more sense, right? They're performing necessary service. Well,
it's not necessary.
Theoretically, I get what
it helps the animal, right?
Yeah.
Right.
By neutering them is beneficial. It's beneficial for them.
Right. Sorry, the terminology. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Access to care. Yes,
right.
It's important, and we're helping with that.
A helping hand rather than pulling a feral animal off the street and breaking their leg in order to show how to. That doesn't make any sense.
And again, I don't know the source of all the animals, but I suspect it was for the dogs, anyways. I suspect it was Class B dealers. For the horses and the cows, when we did anatomy, anyways, they went to an auction and purchased them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense.
And you also talk about there were some pigs that you rescued. What happened there?
Well, one of the things that's very common in piglets is something called an umbilical hernia. Mm-hmm. And then that's where your umbilicus is. There's a hole, and you oftentimes there's fat that goes through it. You could potentially, there is the possibility for your intestines to go through. So it's something that needs to be repaired. So it's a required surgery. And so when we were doing our large animal rotation, so these piglets were brought in from farms where they actually had umbilical hernias, which is something you can diagnose from the outside. Well, the alternative students, the 7 of us, we got 3 piglets. We did the repair, which is what that was a necessary repair, but usually they were sent back to the farm to eventually to be raised and then killed as meat. We got permission for our 3 piglets that we got to take them to a sanctuary. We took them to a pig sanctuary in Pennsylvania. And the cool thing about it is that my mom went along with. She helped me transfer them to Pennsylvania, where they lived out their life naturally.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Well, these are some of them make it, don't they?
They do. And it was just again, another feel-good factor to know that we helped these piglets, and then we were able to take them to a sanctuary where they lived out their life naturally.
I love that story, because these pigs usually are killed within a fraction of their lives. They don't even get to experience. They don't experience life, do they? It's taken from them at such a young age. They're given half a life, and we're expecting them not to fight for it.
Well, until they get a certain weight, right?
Right.
Right.
But they're so young. They're like
Right.
within months. Within months of their births, they're executed, and it depends on how much weight we want, right? It's all up to our whims.
Yeah. But I don't think it's months. It may be, and Crystal, you may be in a better position to know this, but it's probably a year or two. When they're adults, yes, when they're adults, because they weigh more, and so therefore they're worth more.
Pigs are killed within like 6 months.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask really quick, since I maybe I don't want to be wrong.
And maybe
here.
you're right. You may be right. But I do know it's when they have a greater, where they weigh more. Right.
They try to get them between 5 and 6 months of age. They're typically slaughtered, which is usually about 200 to 300 pounds.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we've bred them to grow so quickly. 200, 300 pounds seems so big, and you see them, they seem like these are adult pigs, but they're 6 months old.
Yeah,
Right.
and then they can get the big sows can get 600 pounds. Like they're absolutely huge.
Yeah, it's wild, and to think that your piglets got to live full lives
Right,
is heartening. It makes me feel good about humanity cautiously.
I agree.
Was it hard to get approval to do that and save them?
It's hard because you remember so many years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being difficult. I suspect, and I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that there was fear. I shouldn't say fear. It's too strong of a word. There was some concern if they denied our request that there might be an uproar about it. Right.
That's a good kind of fear to have.
Right. So I don't remember it being particularly difficult. I do remember that we were able to get approval, that we got the 3 piglets that the 7 of us had worked on, and then transfer them to Pennsylvania.
Because the opposite fear that is always detrimental is the fear of like, oh, if we let them get away with this, then it'll just be everybody will want to do their own thing. And we can't have that. We waste so much time and energy. We just have to have the students stick to the program because we can't have all of this, flexibility here. It just, muddies things up. But the truth is, I think students need to be aware of is like that fear of uprising is what we need to harness. That's on our side.
And to be honest with you, as long as you're going to a public school anyways, it's the legal fears.
Mm-hmm.
That's true too, right? But I mean, even these chancellors, they don't want the headache of all these students complaining all the time. That's like your worst nightmare as one of these chancellors. Like when in University of Madison, when they had all those baby those marmosets that they imported, and that was such a stink, and now although there is still a slaughterhouse, there's still sorts of stuff going. They're kind of famous in Madison for a lot of animal stuff, but they're not importing any baby monkeys recently, as far as I know.
And Sky, assuming you're talking about the University of Wisconsin-Madison, right?
Yes.
Not Madison College, because there's another one. Okay.
Yeah, the big one, the Badgers, I think, right?
Right, yeah. University of Wisconsin-Madison, right.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, I didn't know that there was the other college.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't been to the other one. But the University of Wisconsin-Madison is the one with the slaughterhouse, right? With the gas chambers, and they got the whole thing.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Ryan Bloom was telling me about it. I don't know.
And alternative students, like you guys were required to do some extra rotations.
Correct. Right.
Was that purposefully to send you some sort of message?
No, I don't think so, Crystal. What it was, so it made sense because first of all, when you're doing surgery on a dead animal, you can't practice anesthesiology, right, or anesthesia, and so that's why we had to have a 1 week extra rotation during our winter break. And to be honest with you, I think I got a better experience than the regular students because I got that, got 2 extra rotations. So one was the anesthesia rotation. We had to do another week in surgery because when you're performing procedures on dead animals, you don't have an issue with hemostasis. So the bleeding and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's why. So it made sense that they did that, and I didn't feel like it was a way to make us pay or something like that. It just made sense.
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
I thought that was well thought out.
But the other students were denied the ability to like watch their anesthesia patient wake up from anesthesia and like
This is
manage their
true.
pain afterwards.
That's why I got a better experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was overall, right. So it was much better. I thought.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I want to transition a little bit to your friend, the late Dr. Holly Cheever, who just passed away recently, who is a legend in the field of veterinary medicine. How did you first come about meeting Dr. Cheever?
Okay. Again, through AVAR, the Association of Veterinarians for Animal Rights. And I met her, I was at a veterinary conference. And I think that Pam Runquist was there too, I believe, who is the head of Humane VMA. And Holly's like 5 feet tall. She's this tiny little thing, but she's a force of nature, man. I would not want to mess with her. And whip smart. Oh my gosh. And I remember the first time I met her, because I'd only been a veterinarian for a couple of years at this point, and you're still, you're still trying to work things out and all that. And I still had some issues about, because they were doing things like declaws and stuff like that, and on companion animals. And I remember meeting her, and at a lunch, we got together for lunch along with some other people, and I just sat back and I listened. I mean, and the way she would tell stories, it just had you laughing. And she stood up. And remember, she went through vet school in the early 80s.
Yeah.
If I thought it was bad in the early 90s, it was even worse back then.
Oh yeah.
And so one of my favorite stories that she shared with me, or all of us, was that, now remember, so she went through a time where you had the same animal that you did the surgery on, you recovered them, and did another surgery. Okay, so her surgery pony, and I hate to call it because it should be a pony used for surgery.
Right, surgery pony.
Yeah,
Oh,
we always call it our surgery animal.
Pony, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And but so it was the night before he was going to be killed. He or she, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Sorry, Holly. But it was the night before he was going to be killed. And she and another veterinary student and it was her boyfriend at the time, would end up being her husband, rehomed him to a pasture at her home. And so he was never killed. He lived out his life naturally and ended up being a very close companion of Holly's. And for her to take the courage to do something like that of a large animal, which I wish I remember how she actually managed it. But it was a story that she tells with such pride,
Yeah.
and it was of course the right thing for the animal.
Absolutely.
But she was, and when she was, as a veterinarian, she stood up for way back when we were fighting gestation crates. She actually met with the American Veterinary Medical Association, or AVMA, which historically is a pretty conservative organization. She met with the powers to be, and these were, I think, people on the board as well as like the executive director and things like that, explaining. And so this was in the early, it was probably in the early or the late 90s. It was in the late 90s, early 2000s, where she explained why we should not, as a veterinary profession, we should not be supportive of gestation crates, because these animals are raised, during this time where they're pregnant, they're raised where they cannot stand up, or turn around. It's such confinement, and that this was not the right way to raise an animal. So, so she and like I said, and she didn't have any fear. She just got up there and she had her facts straight. She presented it, and there was no fear on her part. So she was a tremendous mentor, and she was someone I would often call to say, Holly, this is what I'm experiencing, and she would always help me through.
During veterinary school, or like?
No, I didn't meet her until after veterinary school.
Okay.
Right? So this is when I was a veterinarian, and so I met her afterwards, and so she was just always a wonderful support person. And boy, like I said, I was just glad I was on her side, because I wouldn't want to be on the other. That's for sure.
It's so amazing. I've heard so many stories about Holly, and Also, just how many veterinarians have rescued animals during vet school? Like, it's not something that's told, but so many people have told me their stories of rescuing their animals that would be killed in vet
Right.
school.
Right.
I mean, I rescued a cat from the dermatology department that was abandoned, and the owners wanted to euthanize the cat, and I ended up taking the cat home. But of course, it was very much on the up and up, and I was, just adopting the cat. But we all do it. Like, we're young, enthusiastic students, and to have your first experience with caring for a patient be one of callousness, or like, oh no, you just got to do what you're told and kill the animal, versus an experience of like, I get the chance to rescue this animal. That like that solidifies in your mind like who you are as a person. And I think it just carries with you throughout your career when you make that choice to object to the system and to do the right thing.
But it's also hard, as a student. I mean, like I said, I'm so thankful that I was older, because I don't think I would have had the courage nor the knowledge to do, to just stand up.
Exactly.
And so I'm very thankful, thankful for
say
that.
It might have something to do with the age thing again. When you're 25, 26, you're not so willing to go along. You've seen a little bit more. You've been you've got a little trauma under your belt at that point. You're ready to to say no more.
So do you have any advice for current students who are having to go through vet school and having to kill animals and are considering,
or even harm them? Right.
Even harm them.
It's really simple. Follow your beliefs. They will never betray you. If you think something's wrong, it's not sitting right with you, it probably is. And the only way things change is when we stand up for it. And that's a hard thing to swallow sometimes, but it's really true. We have to be the advocate for the voiceless. I mean, because they can't do it themselves. And eventually, once you get your DVM, you'll have even more capability to make those kind of changes. But if it means, if you have to compromise your beliefs, your ethical beliefs, to become a veterinarian, to me it was my choice. It wasn't worth it. I knew that I could help the animals in some other capacity. But my advice to veterinary students: if there feels like something's wrong, it probably is. And stand up for your beliefs.
Yeah.
And thank heavens for organizations like Our Honor. Crystal, I wish we had something like that. We had AVAR, which was wonderful.
AVAR,
right? We had AVAR, but I mean, Our Honor is specifically for conscientious objectors. And again, thank you for starting that organization.
Yeah, we try. And AVAR, I feel like the 90s were like this golden era where so many veterinarians and vet students were speaking out and trying to change things. And then something happened, like after 2004, I follow the AVMA's like social media. It's like 2004 was the year like the fist came down, and the industry was able to take a hold and just silence anybody who was a conscientious objector who like criticized the AVMA's policies.
They haven't silenced everyone. You know that, Crystal. They haven't.
Oh yeah, not
everyone.
everybody.
Right.
But there's a lot less conscientious objection that happens now, and there's a lot more that needs to happen that isn't happening. The students are staying silent; they're not fighting back,
but there's not as much to fight. There's still stuff to fight. There's not as much as there was in the 1980s and 1990s.
I don't know. I see every school doing it. I see even Viticus Group right now. This is our big campaign, is Viticus Group, the VMX conference. They had young beagles that the veterinarians were practicing on for their wet labs. And a bunch of veterinarians just reached out to them and were like, hey, these look like beagles from a lab that were killed for our lab. This feels uneasy. Like, can you tell us about the sourcing of these beagles? Radio silence from Viticus Group. They will not respond to any of the emails from veterinarians who are reaching out.
Don't get me wrong, it's still going on. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah.
I felt it was probably even worse back then.
And back then they did it out in the open. The Viticus Group is obfuscating what's occurring now. It's like they've gotten better of hiding it from us. Right. And that sucks. the way that they're controlling the information and the way they're doing things behind curtains, and they know they've learned their lesson. If you do things just behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz, right? He's just right behind the curtain. He's right there. You don't have to go far to get him. Toto is the one who pulls back the curtain. It doesn't take much, but they know you're not gonna. And that's the big bluff, right? They do things just almost in plain sight, but just far enough out so that you don't. Maybe, in the 80s and 90s they did it right in plain sight. Now they've taken one step back.
I feel like the industry is a lot better at manipulation now. Like just the ACOS short course that I went to, where I got to tour Fair Oaks Farms, it's like we saw a specific slice that gave the illusion of transparency. Yet nobody asked about where the calves were raised down the street, where they're all in individual gestation crates. And we didn't get to see that farm, the farm where the abuses were found by activists. And he says, oh, we have all these cameras now. We make sure, no beatings happen, but it still happens. Yeah. So what did you do after graduation? What path did you take?
I was a general practitioner for about 7 years, and worked in small animal clinics, 3 different small animal clinics, and then I got really inspired by behavior. We think that the number 1 cause of death for companion animals in the United States are behavior problems. So
Absolutely.
What happens?
As a shelter vet, I can attest to that.
Okay. So they're either surrendered to shelters where death could be imminent. They're put down they're asked to be put down by their veterinarian, or worse, they're set free. And
then picked up by animal control.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's something I've always had an interest in, anyways. And so I started, and this is back again. So this is a time where there wasn't a lot of veterinarians. Like when I was in vet school, I got a 1-credit elective in behavior. And how sad is that, considering, what a significant problem it is. Yeah. So I started getting more educated in behavior. This is at a time where a lot of veterinarians weren't doing it. And then I started, and I think it was 2001, 2002, started creature counseling. And where I do, where essentially I do primarily home consultations, and you just get so much in a home environment that you wouldn't get like in a clinic setting, right? Makes sense, yeah. And the advantage I have over general practitioners, by the time guardians seek out my help, they're ready to commit to doing the behavior modification that's needed, and they're willing. The whole family is willing to be a part of it, because that's pretty critical as well. And so I've been doing that ever since. In addition, I've still been very involved with animal advocacy, because that's kind of my first love. And I've worked with AVAR. I actually helped produce their alternatives in veterinary medicine newsletter. Was involved as one of their veterinary scientists for a while, and then worked for the HSVMA, Humane Society Veterinary Medical Association, as a veterinary consultant for about 8 years when they first started. And at the same time, I was still doing creature counseling, so I was doing each one part-time. Then got involved with the Program for Pet Health Equity, and was the executive director for something called the Access to Veterinary Care Coalition, because that was something I was very concerned about. Again, still doing my practice at the same time. And that's where I met Crystal. I was involved with the Veterinary Association for Farm Animal Welfare, FAFA, and was involved with them as their executive director up till the end of last year, where I resigned. But I'm still very supportive of the work that they do. So it's because I'm so thankful, and I'm sorry, my little kitty here, Gracie, wanted to join us.
We love kitties on the show.
That's right. She always wants to be a part of it, don't you? So I really, even though my professional experience has been with companion animals, I'm most concerned about farm animals, because of all the species, they're the most abused, especially chickens, just from sheer numbers. So that's why I still can wear my advocacy hat, along with doing as a veterinarian for companion animals.
Yeah, and we're so often told, like, by our colleagues to stay in our lane. like, oh, you're a companion animal vet, so stay in your lane. It's like, no, I'm a veterinarian, and we can constantly evolve. And if I want to position myself as an expert in farmed animal welfare, I can go take CEs, and I can read about these things and do my own research. And like, have you run into any of that, like, stay in your lane messaging from any of your colleagues?
Not directly. But I do hear it from some of the different organizations, the professional organizations. About companion animal veterinarians. But, Dr. Barry Kifferman gives a great presentation for veterinary students, why small animal veterinarians should be concerned about large animal welfare. And so, there's and that's something that's offered through the Humane Veterinary Medical Association, Alliance, that veterinary students, if they're interested in, can hear. So, but, he makes the argument for it, and it's an excellent one.
I think, we all have to.
I was going to say, shouldn't all vets be speaking up for animals? I mean, I love the idea that every veterinary office should be info about animals. Like, it should be somehow, this is how we interact. This is how we interact. The public interacts with animal professionals, right? Is at the vet office. So it makes sense to have some info available. And
that's been probably one of my biggest disappointments as being a veterinarian, that there aren't more veterinarians concerned about all, like you said, all beings. And I love the name of the podcast, by the way. It's really about all beings. And this is I'll just be straightforward, okay, is that I was having my teeth cleaned last week, and the the dental hygienist said to me, because she knows that I'm a veterinarian, she knows that I'm a vegan, and she said, I think it's so cool that you're a veterinarian and that you're vegan. She goes, I can't believe more veterinarians aren't. And I said, me too. I said, as a matter of fact, we're the only profession who eats our animal or eats our patients.
Don't say that in Australia.
Why Australia?
Oh, because Tash Peterson just got like a huge lawsuit for saying exactly that, for saying that about a veterinarian.
She accused a veterinarian of eating her patients, and the veterinarian sued her because that's not true. She doesn't eat her patients.
She doesn't eat her patients. She eats.
Okay. Oh, well, I said our.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, because she doesn't eat her patients because she doesn't work on large animals. She only works on dogs and cats and whatever, and birds. So yeah,
I wasn't aware of that. So
yeah, it's just a funny little just for the animal rights people in the chat. I just wanted to yeah.
So
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to move on to the next question, which is, what is the biggest challenge that you've faced as a veterinarian? Beyond some of the, and I'm assuming you're talking more from an ethical standpoint, right? Whatever, it kind of has been the biggest.
Well, again, I mean, and you have to understand. I mean, I love our profession, and I mean, I'm so thankful that for all, and there's some wonderful veterinarians that I've met along the road. But what has been my biggest disappointment is that there aren't more veterinarians speaking out for the animals. Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard, and I know sometimes that's hard to do, but go ahead, Sky.
Well, I want to ask you almost the same thing, which was, well, how should they? Because that's something that I want to kind of, where the rubber meets the road, how should a veterinarian advocate, speak up for animals?
Well, a good example would be something that Our Honor took the lead on, and that has to do with Ventilation Shutdown Plus, and how poultry is being killed because of the avian influenza virus. And it's a horrific way of killing these poor animals. And I know that you had many people, hundreds at least of veterinarians that signed the petition for it, Crystal. But why wasn't there more?
3,000. Yeah. Why is well, maybe it's a failure to be able to reach out to those people, because
could be,
and a failure of others to share it, honestly.
So why isn't places like the AVMA, the American Veterinary Medical Association, why aren't they taking more of a stance on that, and so it's
I think it's because people don't know. When we were at VMX, we were talking about ventilation shutdown and pig gas chambers. We were talking about those two topics predominantly, and most of them did not know. Most of vets and vet techs did not know that pigs were killed in gas chambers. Most of them did not know what VSD plus meant or what ventilation shutdown plus meant. They had no idea, and it was upsetting to me a little bit because although I felt like in that outreach scenario, I'm at least talking to people who have thought about animals. Like they have thought a little bit. There's not like a random person in Arkansas, right, who never even has considered an animal as anything but an object. These vets and vet techs have, but they don't know like something that I think is very kind of integral, basic that they should know about, you know?
Right. And you're right. There's many people that aren't aware of it, and including veterinarians. So, and I think because of my work with animal advocacy is the reason why I'm aware of it. Right. So if people aren't actually seeking that out, then I can see where they're not,
Yeah.
It's difficult because, like, with Our Honor, we say, "Will you sign up and sign our letter to to speak up against ventilation shutdown?" And I think a lot of people, they just go, "I don't even know what that is," and they don't even read the body of the email, right? They just, I don't know what that is. I've got too much on my, and there's a lot of that. You said 2004, and I went back because 2004, I was protesting in 2004, and I was not vegan yet. I was vegetarian, but I wasn't an animal rights activist. In 2004, I was protesting the war in Iraq. I was in the streets of Germany shouting and yelling for peace. I wasn't even on my radar. Maybe that's what a lot of people are feeling now. I don't know, but it's hard to cut through that noise, and it's noisier than ever.
A lot of veterinarians aren't on social media. We have to keep going to these conferences and talking in person, and we're not allowed to leaflet. So you got to have a booth, and you can't have a booth at the AVMA convention because they don't let you. If you just send mass emails, people ignore the emails. Like we have to talk to our colleagues, one-on-one and reach them.
Well, you were in jail, Crystal. Yesterday, I was working on a animal declaw explainer card to leave at veterinary offices because I thought that might be an easy way to get into the door and just get people. We can get volunteers. Volunteers could go to a FedEx or a whatever, a Staples or something, and pick up flyers and maybe go to the vet offices and just ask them, "Do you know about this? Would you mind leaving this in your office?" It's just informational about what declawing actually is, and then maybe work them up to something like foie gras, and then work them up to something like gas chambers, and try to get some grassroots going with the vets that are out there. I think. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about that, Susan?
Veterinary offices.
Yeah, vets offices. Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be. It might be a tough sell, because they'll look at because other than the declaw, but things like ventilation shutdown, things like that. They're saying that's not our target market, right?
Yeah, I guess that's the strategy in my mind is that like we start off with declaw, right? And it's something that hopefully it's just something for informational. You're an animal professional, something informational to share with your clients, and then the next one might be, I don't know, something. Maybe it stays in small animals for a little bit, but then we graduate them up after we've built some rapport and some trust. We graduate them up to something like foie gras, which is still, it's a problem, but it's not like. It's not ventilation shutdown. It's not gas chambers yet. Those are the big ones to me that I want to get out there. And
I don't know. I think ventilation shutdown is an easier thing to raise awareness about than declawing. Yeah. I think because most people, when they hear about it, are horrified and want us to fight back. But, we could try different ones first and see which strategy goes best. But obviously, we don't know until we try, which is why we just got to keep throwing things against the wall, trying and pivoting, and don't spend too long on one particular strategy unless we know it works. But we have to try a bunch of strategies because it's
step 2 could be ventilation
quality.
Yeah, ventilation shutdown could be step 2. I just thought step 1, for the exact reason that Susan just said, like declawing is kind of a gimme, right? I don't know. It seems like one that can get out there, but I mean,
well, it's their target, and a lot of people don't know. It's you are amputating
It's an amputation.
They're at this joint, and some people are when they find that out, they're horrified. So
I know I was. I mean, it's cutting off the first digit of your finger. It's not what people think.
The first joint of your finger. So the digit,
right?
That's
what I mean.
the whole thing.
Right. The first joint.
The proper terms. Yeah.
The first joint of each digit, I suppose.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Whew. I mean, it's a shocking thing when you find out what it is.
Yeah. And I think and sometimes ignorance is bliss. Some people just don't want to hear it.
That's where we come in, right? That's hopefully we'll be able to change some. I think it'd be good to get some volunteers out there who could just drop these things off. Question from the chat: are veterinarians typically on LinkedIn? I wonder if you could set aside some funds for promotion on there.
LinkedIn's so expensive, but if you want us to do that campaign, please do donate to ourhonor.org/donate or Venmo at Our Honor. And donate. Put your money where your mouth is. If you think we should do something, give us funds so that we can do it. But LinkedIn, from a business, if you wanted a business profile on LinkedIn, it's $99 a month.
$99 a month to do it. Yeah.
Then if you want to pay to promote it, it's more. Or you could just share our content on LinkedIn and tag your veterinarian. And if you don't have money, you can do that.
We're streaming right now to LinkedIn. But of course, I think everyone could go to ourhonor.org/donate and try to, because the mission needs money. We have all of these campaigns and they're not free.
Yeah. And what are you currently working on and what are you most passionate about right now?
There's 3 areas that I'm working in. The first, of course, is my behavior practice, creature counseling, and that continues. And, there's times where I'm like, am I in the right place and all that? And then I have a consult like I did right before the podcast today that I'm like, this couple, they're concerned about their dog and they're both there and they want to do what's, Sarah, and they got excited afterwards. We put together a behavior modification program. Then I'm like, I'm at the right place, So that's and that's something I've done for many, many years now. And I want to continue doing and feel honored to be able to do it. Secondly, is that I really feel I want to be more involved in getting people to embrace a plant-based lifestyle. So as with my expertise in behavior, the one thing I thought about is making that parallels between companion animal behavior and farm animal behavior. Things like, and this is something we can visually share with people, which is the reason I became a vegetarian to begin with, right? Mm-hmm. Years ago. But for example, you can show some puppies running around chasing each other. Then you see some calves that are doing the same thing in the field. That cows actually will be midwives to each other. That chickens can recognize faces. I mean, all these parallels, and that people will make that connection, because I think that's important. And I know for me, and it is the reason I chose to choose a plant-based lifestyle. But also, I love. It's one of those things that people aren't going to go la 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 la. I don't want to hear. They'll be like, tell me more, because it's fun to watch these things. So that's the second one. The third one, and this is harder. But it really stems from my interest in behavior, is that I'm becoming more involved in what I'm calling behavioral and welfare analysis. So what this means is oftentimes I might be sent a video where I have to, from that video, scientifically show why that animal is conscious, why they're experiencing pain, and why that's led to suffering. Sometimes it may be just recently working on a USDA statement where an animal was removed from the kill floor because of some welfare issues. And then from that, I have to as a veterinarian, I have to say why this animal experienced pain and why it's in violation of the Animal Welfare Act and things like that. So that's a tougher one. And there was actually this is when I was working for the HSVMA, is I had and this was between the HSVMA and HSI, which is Humane Society International, where I had about 10 videos of bullfighting. And I worked with 2 veterinarians in Spain and 1 veterinarian in England, And the four of us reviewed these videos of bullfighting and scientifically put down why these animals are experiencing pain or discomfort or distress, and why that leads to suffering. And it was very hard. There was a point I remember and watching, but someone's got to do it, right? And it wasn't just because of the report that we put together, but it was part of it. Is one of the provinces in Spain outlawed bullfighting. So these things do make a difference, right? It's just very hard to do. And I remember this is back in probably 2013 or maybe even a little bit earlier than that. But I'm watching the bullfighting, and you have to watch every single frame, right? And then we put together a spreadsheet and say why we felt this was a problem. Maybe it might be a bellowing from the bull. It might be you could visualize pain. You can see the bull was limping, or there was some behavioral sign or some physical sign that the animal was in some distress at some point. But I'm watching this, and I go, oh! And my son was in the background. This is when he was much younger. And he goes, Mom, are you watching the bullfighting videos again? And it just, it sticks with you. And he, he's very aware of what we, matter of fact, the two of us went to Barcelona together when we gave a presentation. He was with me when I was giving a presentation about it. But these are things that not only does it affect us as adults, but children as well. And so it's tough for me to do this. And it was really tough for me to make the decision. I was really going to get more involved with it because I've done it over the years, but I'm going to be more active about it now is because I think that's something I can offer because of my experience with it, but also, my experience with behavior. So those are the three areas mainly.
Yeah, it's so important, but it's also so frustrating to do because it's like this should be obvious that you just look at this and it's bad, but you have to cite your sources and say just like this ventilation shutdown, people ask me, why is ventilation shutdown bad? Even the vet students being like, well, it seems like a quick and humane way to kill people,
and
kill animals.
It's not humane, right?
You have to explain that heat stroke is a horrible way to die. It's so maddening sometimes.
Well, it's funny. This was a couple years ago. I was sent some video about fish that were literally being skinned alive, and they were saying, well, they didn't suffer because they don't experience pain.
Ugh.
So I had to, in a letter, I had described this is what I'm seeing, this is the behavior I'm seeing, and this indicates pain. So therefore, they can experience pain, and these are the scientific studies that show yes, fish can experience pain. But sometimes it's so obvious, but we have. And this is where the veterinarians come in because we're in the best position to be able to make those assessments. But it's a tough thing to do. A lot of veterinarians aren't willing to, and I get it. I understand because it's hard to unsee something that you've seen, right? And it affects you. But it's because of the things that I have seen in the past that makes me want to do more. And if there's anything I can do because of my experience with behavior, then I want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And we have to remember there are thousands of researchers and veterinarians out there writing papers, spending hours writing papers, legitimizing things like ventilation shutdown and gestation crates and coming up with scientific evidence that this is the best thing to do. And we have to fight back. And it's so often we just want to be like, I don't want to focus on these horrors. I just want to live my life and, focus on the good.
I'm with you. I get it, but I can't close my eyes. I wish I could. I really do. I think my life would be a lot easier if I did, but I can't. And I blame my mom because all the way to the end, she was always an advocate, not just for the animals, but like I said, she had a lot of work. She was volunteer of the year for the Road Home, which helps a lot with housing insecurity. And it's inside me, and I can't stop. But of course, I don't want to alienate people either. So I try to do it in a kind way, but a truthful way. And sometimes there's just some people are just, I don't want to hear it, Susan. I don't want to hear it. And when they say that, then I stop. Because you can't force that on someone else, right? It's like you can't force a plant-based lifestyle on someone, but you just try to educate. That's all we can do.
Yes, exactly. You've got to keep trying. I mean, it's just you can't force. I always say, you can't force people to wear the magic glasses that helps them see the truth. But you can try to teach them to build their own. Right. But not everyone's ready to learn, and you've got to meet them where they are.
We couldn't force people to stop smoking, but we could ban advertising, and
that's where I'm at.
Make it really expensive, and we could create a society where it's really difficult to smoke. And I think that's what we got to do with animal-based protein production.
Oh, I've been saying that. I mean, I think my big thing is that I want to run for office and run for city council here, and just try to get advertising in the city for fast food or any carcinogens taken off it. If it's a class 2 carcinogen, it's out,
Well, you don't even have to run for city council. Just write a letter. Have you written a letter to your city council members and seen if they do that?
I have not, but I don't have faith in this city council to.
You never know until you try another city council, But moving on from that, what gives you hope right now, Dr. Susan?
I do have hope. I do, and I would say that what gives me hope are people like you.
Oh,
it's people like you, Sky. It's people who, especially students who are willing to speak up and speak out. It's having the support of family and friends, and colleagues. I would also I have a strong faith in God. I believe in a loving God, and so I don't believe this is what he or she wants. And so all those things combined are what gives me hope. It doesn't mean I'm not down sometimes, because there's times where I am, where I don't even want to get out of bed in the morning because of things that I've become aware of, things that I don't I don't want to believe are happening. But I know we can live in a better place. I apologize. I've got a dog with tracheal collapse, so that's what you're hearing right there.
I could.
So I just I do still have hope for all those reasons.
Is there anything I forgot to mention or bring up that you'd want to talk about before we go?
Well, I guess the last thing for me, and Guy, you're just gonna have to wait, Sissy. Okay. The one thing for me, when I look at what I really would love to do, and to make a better world for all species, I think and it really boils down to having a plant-based lifestyle, because of the things that are affected by it. It's not just the impact on the animals, which is of course very important. So the ethics of it. It's not just the impact of the health, the better health that people have, from having a plant-based lifestyle, but it's also the environment. The lower we eat on the food chain, the better it is for the environment. And a combination of those three things, I think that's the biggest impact I can make to the world, and why I still continue to advocate for that. And I realize it's not for everybody, but if I can at least inform and educate, and I accept that that there's going to be many people out there that don't accept it, that's fine, but at least be educated.
Yeah. And that right now, so many people just don't know. They don't know it's possible to be healthy on an animal-free diet.
Right.
So thank you for all the work that you're doing for the animals and what you did in vet school, and this path that you're leading. It's an example for all veterinarians. So you're a hero.
Okay.
We love you.
I wouldn't go that far, but thank you. It was such an honor to be a part of this. So thank you both for having me on.
Thank you, Susan.
And just keep doing the work that you're doing. So you really are leading the way.
Thank
Dr.
you,
Susan. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye. Awesome.
That was
See,
great.
I would normally have done the outro, but yeah, that's okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Susan. What a wonderful human that one is.
She's great.
Yeah.
That's yeah. There's so many stories like hers of like, and Holly Cheever's of students pushing back against their schools and rescuing animals and all of the things. And we just need to show more vet students, like story after story. Like this is what veterinarians went through in vet school.
Yeah, we need more people telling those stories and sharing those stories. You're absolutely right. Like you said, we're trying to get people to share these stories. And this week I've been reaching out and getting people to try to comment on posts, trying to share the post, trying to like just going into those chats and telling people, hey, we just posted something on social media. Would you mind elevating it? I think that's something that we need to request of everybody is share the shorts, share the reels, share the stories. We talk so much about how important these stories are, and yet we and you and I go to such lengths to try to get these stories out there. We need you watching right now, everybody, to share that story, to share it, tell people about it. We'll pretty soon I'll make some shorts of our conversation, and you could share those. So easy. We need to elevate these stories so that people know that they're not alone and they don't feel so disenfranchised and powerless. People feel scared, just like what she said, all the fear that people feel because they feel like they're alone, and they're not.
Yeah, it's tough right now. You have to. I'm just thinking a lot about just the reality of the LA ICE protests. What I experienced on the ground and how different that is from the media.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the vet students go through too. Like there's like, oh, the image of what vet school is and what the vet schools tell you vet school's like. And even afterwards, like there's nobody telling the story of like what it's actually like, how awful it is and how behind the times it is.
Totally. Or they'll divert. They'll tell you a different thing. They'll try to get you to pay attention to something else. Well, what about this? What about that? Well, isn't this,
And I think we all get into our own little cliques and we just listen to the narratives of our own little cliques instead of, and we do this in the veterinary profession too. It's like, oh, this is the veterinary profession narrative. And we learn in vet school, if you want to be a successful veterinarian, the key is reciting what the people in positions of power say and like,
and derogate do-gooders and derogate whistleblowers and derogate
and have the talking
activists.
Points down that criticize anybody who speaks out against the people in positions of power. And we need to just develop your own narrative and story and think for yourself, like have your own life experience. Don't just follow what people say on social media or like memorize what your professors are saying, like question it and have your own thoughts on these things. Don't just go with the talking points. Don't just believe what the activist group is telling you. This is true at animal rights. I think we lean on animal rights groups a lot because it's like, oh, now I found my tribe and they're just going to think for me now. I don't have to like do the work of coming up with my own narrative story. I'm just going to retweet and reshare their stuff.
Well, we do want people to retweet and reshare, but we want people to do it knowingly and
I
informed.
want you to comment and if you
have
share
the conversation.
My stuff, don't just retweet it, like add something to it and share it. Don't add your own perspective on this. And if you think, oh, Crystal sounds really bitchy today, like add that. And
well, what's funny? They usually tell me if you sound that way. Usually,
but you never say that to me.
No, I don't tell you that. But
wow, that's a healthy environment.
No, because I defend you. Because I think like
maybe I'm not worth defending. This is what you're falling into. What happens with any person who's a leader of a group is all of the sycophants who follow that person defend that person's toxic behavior.
Toxic behavior is a stretch. I mean, I think that sometimes people will read into YouTube or like captions in Instagram or something, and they'll be like, well, I can't believe Crystal feels this way or something. And I'll be like, well, I know Crystal better than you, and I don't think that she does. And that's.
But I'd want to know what people are like, how people are interpreting my stuff, because that makes it better. You know, when you write
Well, I was
something
gonna wait. I was
for
gonna
our
wait. I
honor-
was gonna wait until Sunday to have this conversation actually because
Oh,
I did want to.
really? What's
Yeah,
it about though? And like,
because I wanted to bring everybody else into it. It's nothing that extreme, Crystal, but like
like you don't have to like tone
no,
it
no,
down.
no. I'm not going to tone it down. I'll tell you exactly. All right. Before you were arrested, you were sharing pictures of the cleanup effort of the Waymos and a couple of other things. And I didn't read, to be honest, I didn't read the captions. Normally, I don't read a lot of captions because I generally don't have time to go through people's captions. So I thought they were great pictures of the Waymos of the cleanup, though. I thought it was awesome. So I hit the like button. I think I left a comment to be a good netizen. If I like something, I usually try to leave a comment. And then I got a comment from somebody else. Someone DM'd me. When we focus on the destruction, then we're taking attention away from the cause or the mission. I don't think Crystal's right about her comments about graffiti. So I had to go through and look at your captions at that point. And it wasn't the Waymo one. It was a different one of the graffiti. And you're like, hopefully we can continue without the graffiti or something. You said something like that. And to me, it was like Crystal's just hoping for, that we can continue to protest and continue the activism, and maybe not do the graffiti. I don't know.
I don't understand the graffiti. I honestly think that is not done by activists. That's done by people who want to silence activists. That's done with people with an agenda to just show see, protest is dangerous, so we got to shut this down.
But graffiti has always been a huge component of resistance movements, of activism. It's always been a big part. If you go to the French during the Nazi occupation.
Yeah, I don't understand people who graffitied the Japanese museum. That made no sense to me.
I don't know about that part.
Protests.
I don't know about that particular museum or anything. I don't. I do know that people are pissed, and people are going to express that anger in all these destructive ways. Is that a form of activism? I think it is. And I
think we can ask people to elevate their standards of conduct. And I think if somebody can convince me that graffiti is a solid form of activism that's helpful for the movement.
But that's not the question. That's not the question.
Well, that's my question that I'm answering with no. And if you want to debate that, then
well, it is. We could debate that. I think it to be a good Sunday topic, but I think it is a good form of activism, graffiti, but that's neither here nor there. The question was if concentrating on the Waymos or the graffiti, if that takes away from the message of people being kidnapped. I mean, the truth of the matter is people are being kidnapped. Isn't that something to be talked about, and maybe not the graffiti or the Waymo?
No, I think there's there's all of the lens of the media was focused on the people doing the destruction. And here I walked by this and I saw these great people cleaning up the mess. They were very friendly. And I'm like, I'm going to now turn the camera onto them. Because the people who burnt these got attention, I'm going to give the people cleaning it up attention. That's my thinking of it.
Yeah, I just if we're going to, I guess the question is if it's kind of like, is now the time to talk about spray paint regulation or something, when or even whether or not spray paint is a good idea in an activist in a movement. Is spray paint a good idea? Should we even be asking that while people are being kidnapped by the oppressor? Because if people are being kidnapped,
should people even be spray painting while people are being kidnapped by the oppressors, and deflecting the conversation onto whether people or not should just spray paint, or should they be creating solid, good art and messages that will actually help us free the people who are being kidnapped and help protect the people who are being kidnapped? That's another question that can be asked too.
Right, but that's like Gutfield this morning asking why aren't mainstream media outlets interviewing activists in the streets, protesters, and it's like, well, that's a dumb thing for Gutfield to say, because they're not spokespeople, they're not you don't know how articulate they are or eloquent they are about the issues and the mission. You can ask 50 different people, the same question in these giant groups and get 50 different answers, right? So, like, we can't expect everyone to be an articulate spokesperson. Some people are just gonna break stuff. Some people are going to spray paint. Some people are going to be eloquent spokespeople. Some people are going to be agitators, and they all play a role in the resistance. I don't want to police the method of their resistance. I want them to resist. I don't know about this Japanese place, and I do feel really upset when I see certain things that I care about with graffiti on them. It hurts me, but I think that's the point. It's like the tomato soup on the Van Gogh painting. I forget which one. I think it was on the sunflowers. They threw the paint on the soup on the sunflowers. I was hurt. I was like, oh, that's one of my favorites. How dare they? I'm a big Van Gogh fan. I don't want it to be gone. And then I realized, well, there won't be any of us here if we continue. Maybe there will be no reason to have art with no human beings. And if we keep letting what's going on with our global climate change to continue, then I guess this is the message, right? I made me think. In the case of graffiti, I think the same thing, or something similar, that if ICE hadn't come up if ICE hadn't come into Los Angeles with assault rifles, jackbooting people, disappearing people off the streets, then there would be no graffiti. There'd be just the normal amount of graffiti in LA. instead of this, the Waymos would still be driving around. All of these other things are still going on.
The idea that graffiti is a valid form of protest came about from some reason. And so I just think that there's this opportunity to like help push activists into a more effective form of messaging, which is something I think we should all be doing and questioning. And like, what is the best use of your time? If you have the power to spray paint, you have the power to make a video, film, like you have the power to do so many other things. Hold a sign that is more effective.
Well, maybe then we just answered our question. Like maybe that's the message from Dr. Crystal Heath. Maybe that's the message, rather than criticizing the graffiti in kind of a half-hearted way. Maybe be that inspiration. Like I'm inspired by your work, but I mean, maybe if someone is graffitiing, you can offer them some kind of inspiration to guide that energy. We said that about I'd say that about activists all the time, people who are out there doing stuff that I think is extreme and not right, or not, I shouldn't say right, not the best use of their time, I think is what you said. I agree. Like there's certain activists, I'm like, that might not be the best use of their time, but if we could kind of like aim you and get you going this way, I think you would be hell on wheels, you know? Like maybe that's what we need, is take that energy and do something with it.
Yeah. And if they have the power to spray paint, they also have the power to wear something like that says like abolish ICE, save the detainees, like whatever, stop police abuses, and go out there and clean up the graffiti while wearing something that shows you are also against ICE. And I think that would have been really powerful. Like teams of people all dressed up the same with like abolish ICE suits, cleaning up the mess, which might be a powerful message.
Yeah, I think you're right. There would be a powerful message. I don't know how mob mentality works per se, except from what I've read. And I know that in Los Angeles, when the police or the government gets out of line or just basically doesn't follow the rules in Los Angeles, we burn it down. We burn down the city. That's what happens. Like,
why can't we change it to like, we clean up the city? We stand up, we peacefully protest. That's what happens. Why can't we make that the thing that happens?
I guess because both are using the tools of fear. Like we're afraid when the government doesn't like what we're doing, how do they respond? They respond with weaponry and incarceration. When government's doing something that we don't like, how do we respond? With destruction and disobedience.
Which
And
makes the administration go, yes, now we have justification. Now everybody's mad at them. We have justification to stop protests, to just round up people like me on the street and put them in a bus and send them to jail.
They do that, right? But then look how many people are inspired by that story of yours. You were arrested for no reason. I think you were illegally detained.
Yeah.
So that's a story we need to get out. And how do we respond? Maybe with more. I mean, eventually this ends in blood, right? There's no real way. As long as we have a crazy despot in charge, they will continue to escalate. You're right, but normally that's not how it works. You see the people united, and they eventually win because an unruly
I have
populace.
not seen that. I've seen
Really?
the authoritarianism get worse and worse and worse. I have not seen people win. Yeah.
The civil rights movement. We have all sorts of movements.
You think we won the civil rights movement? Haha, that's very
won.
cute.
No. Won. Well,
I think so.
We don't have Jim Crow laws anymore. We don't have. We made some huge strides because of the civil rights movement. Or how about just the fact that 18-year-olds are allowed to vote now because during Vietnam,
you think your vote counts? No, they just made sure that your vote didn't matter.
By saying that nothing has ever happened. Come on now. I know you're not being serious.
Well, I think we have to be more effective, and I think it's getting worse because everybody's addicted to their phones. Nobody's out there actually doing stuff. Nobody's can write anymore. Nobody can think few people can think for themselves. Everybody's just believing what is being told to them on social media and the media, and so many people just telling me I should have stayed home. I shouldn't have gone out there and documented and seen things for myself. And also so many people acting like the fact that I got arrested was a bad thing. We need to switch that narrative and be like, congratulations, you got arrested. It should and I'm like, anybody who messages me, I'm like 10 out of 10 solid experience. I'm so grateful that I was arrested for this thing that's getting international attention. If you're going to get arrested, if you haven't been arrested before, I encourage you, go out to the streets of Los Angeles and be a law-abiding citizen doing your civic duty. And if you happen to get arrested for doing that, more power to you. Congratulations. It's like you won the lottery. And speak to the media and tell your story. And I regret not going out there today and finding the media and being like, hey, I was arrested yesterday. Do you want to talk to me? I should have done that. And instead I was editing videos and making social media posts. And it was a missed opportunity, but I will go out there probably after work tomorrow and see if I can talk to the media and be like, if you guys want to hear my story, I think it was ridiculous what happened to us. We were unjustly detained.
And I think that's wonderful. I think that you should be applying to speak about that experience. Like, I'm speaking at the No Kings protest in Anaheim, the one in LA. They're probably still looking for speakers. You have DVM next to your name. I'm sure that we can get you on that stage on Saturday. You know, that would be something that we need, people who can speak. A lot of people can't speak out loud. They can't go on stage. I bet you Indivisible.
If you can't now, then you need to practice. I hate speaking. I would so much rather spend my time behind a computer and write. But I'm like, well, there's literally nobody else doing this, so I'm going to do it. I don't work Friday or Saturday, so I got to look for opportunities, I guess.
I probably know someone in the Indivisible group that maybe, let me reach out and see if I know anybody in the LA area that's organizing up there, but I bet you there are. But the other thing about let me just get a little poetic about the graffiti thing, is that if constantly these businesses, corporations, government, they're allowed to take up all the air, all the space. They're always allowed to take up all the advertising space. You turn on the TV, you see Kristi Noem telling you how great Donald Trump is. Even in the commercials now, between segments, you see that. You see posters of propaganda for the government or for these corporations, for animal exploitation, all the rest. And then when they don't follow the rule, and we all agree this is okay because they're following the rules, so we'll follow the rules, right? And when they don't, the people reclaim that space. That space is ours. And if they use it to write FUCKICE, I wish that they were more... I totally agree. I wish their message were better, but I don't want to denigrate them. Someone got up, and that was what they wanted to do that day. They wanted to reclaim public space. They wanted to say something back to the government. They wanted to speak up. And just like when I say something out loud and no one shares it, it's only to you. But if you spray something on a wall, hundreds of people, thousands, millions might see it. And there's something to that.
Yeah, but also if somebody, I think we have a duty to be a countervailing force for encouraging people to behave and act in ways that we see fit. And so if somebody gets up and speaks, I'm not just going to be like, oh, good for you, yay. If they said something that I disagree with, I'm going to, okay, they spoke. I'm just going to, if anybody else listening here heard that, maybe you should think about this part of it and how it could have been better. And maybe they shouldn't have used the F word. And maybe we should have a little bit more empathy for the police and whatever the case may be, understanding that there's these systems. And maybe we shouldn't be constantly just saying F you to the police. And
it's not constant. It's only when they break the rules. It's just like the Rodney King riots. They broke the rules. And the people rose up. They broke the rules. The people held them accountable, and that's what this is. The ICE agents broke the rules. They started disappearing people off the street without due process, and now we have this. This didn't come out of nowhere. A bunch of graffiti people didn't fall out of the sky and just decide to do this one day. They were pushed. And they're pushed into a corner very much like a wild animal. We don't behave any differently from the animals. We're animals ourselves, and when we're cornered, we lash out. To me, that's what that is. It's lashing out, and it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly, but it's not as ugly as kidnapping children off the street and putting them in concentration camps. That's uglier.
Yeah. I keep drawing parallels to what happened to me in an activist group. That we should probably do Trauma Dump Tuesday sometime where I just lay it all out there.
Yeah.
But when somebody did call the cops on an action, and it had the me tactic of I know what they are doing is bad, and I know that they treated you badly, but we do not call the cops on activist groups. But I also hated the fact that this group vilified this person as a snitch and didn't even think to ask themselves, what did you do to make this person
why'd they do that?
Feel like this was the thing to do? And of course they said, it was because of you. Since you shared your story with her, that's what made her so angry that she called the cops, which was so frustrating to see them say this, when I was like, no, it was her own experience. And we should be able to share our experiences with men in this group who manipulated both of us without me fearing that what I might say might lead a woman to call the cops on this group. And so I sense the anger, and should I have lashed out more about this injustice that happened to all of these activists in this group who were trying to voice concerns about the manipulated.
Well, I don't think that's fair to yourself to say, should I have lashed out more? I don't think you're being fair to yourself, but
I never told my story, and maybe I should have.
I think you should have. I think you should, but you know how I feel about it. It's not too late to tell your story.
No, and I will tell my story. I don't know whether I should name names or not, and maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't first, and I'll just lay it out. This is what happened. I'm changing the names. Anybody who knows this group will know, given the circumstances, who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
but I don't have a need to advertise this to thousands of people.
You should do it in any way that makes you feel Right. That's how you should do it. You shouldn't think about how fuck everybody else. You should screw everybody else. Sorry, I try not to curse on this one. Screw everybody else. I don't think you should be worried about you should be worried about yourself and getting your story out in the way that you think is the healthiest way for you and everyone that you care about. But this is interesting because it brings us back to the other thing. But the people who do lash out in other ways that we don't totally agree with, or is a little ugly or an uncomfortable thing, I don't want to bring them down too much, because I do want them. You're right. We should try to mold them and guide them to the right way or a better way or more effective way. But if they have the energy and they have the will and they have the necessity, the internal necessity to go out and lash out, well, I blame the person who's attacking them, that's forcing the lash out, more than I blame the person who's lashing out.
Yeah, I hope most people do that, but they don't. And this is like, I saw it ruined our entire narrative about what was happening when activists called the cops on
Still
them.
going on. I mean, I still hear about it. I told you a few weeks ago, somebody brought it up, and I had to set them straight and had to. So I mean, it's
still the false narrative is out there about what happened, and it was like, just like this narrative got spun and spun and spun, and there's like, if you tried to push back against it, you were instantly labeled a bad guy, because activists, we hero worship and we don't think for ourselves. And
it's not just activists, but yeah, totally.
I'm not going to waste my time on this. I'm going to focus on the animals, because the second you talked about it at all, why don't you just focus on the animals?
Yeah.
It's like, because they're not, they're spending hours crafting this narrative to harm our ability to get funding and donations and do good work for animals. They're telling other people not to share our social media content.
It's also difficult to focus on the animals when you're getting punched in the face, right?
Exactly.
It's hard to do anything altruistic or beautiful when you're being constantly punched in the face. It's hard. It's hard to create. It's hard to have that peace of mind. I totally agree. Paul Campbell says, what's happening in Los Angeles is big news on this side of the Atlantic. When I watched Crystal's footage, and what I do, it's funny, I don't know what you guys are watching at home, but I watch the live streams on YouTube with no commentary, and they have just live streams of what's happening in LA right now. And I think that's the healthiest way to watch what's happening. They aren't commenting, and it looks pretty peaceful, because it's not just flames on loop the whole time. Like on Fox News, it's just the Waymos on fire. Yeah. That's all they show. That's it. Waymos on fire.
And that was literally like one night.
One thing. Yeah, I think it was day 2, right? Yeah. It's it was Saturday or Sunday it happened. It was ridiculous. But I want to know how you guys feel, because when I watch that, I think, how is the rest of the world seeing this? It's so embarrassing. I feel like it's an embarrassment to have the rest of the world see LA like this again.
But it's, when you're out there with the community and the people, it's like you feel so connected to the community, and you're like, oh my God, these are amazing people that live here in LA, and we're doing amazing stuff, and this is so cool, and we're like meeting people, and like, I'm like, this is wonderful. And then these cops come in, like hundreds of cops, which outnumber the number of people actually on the streets photographing and demonstrating. Yeah. They outnumber us by like 2 to 1, 3 to 1. So it's just ridiculous, like that, the idea that this city is being overrun and destroyed. Yeah. Absolutely not. Like
they always make it seem like we're so much more powerful than we are. These activists are so. You're totally right. Even in Irvine, where I do a Sunday action every time I'm in town, and when the cops come up, because the cops will come up, they'll talk. They go like, "Oh, well, what's this? Oh my God, the cops! Oh my God, what are they gonna do?" Everyone's afraid of the cops.
Yeah, I'm just gonna show this foot. These two, I think they were in a heated argument, but it wasn't. It looks pretty aggressive. Yeah, and there's like all the way the camera like it makes it feel like this place is just packed with people, but it really wasn't. But I love the expressions on their faces. I think they're, peaceful. They just this look right here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Like, oh, yeah.
yeah, it's I don't know.
I was watching today. I was watching so much of the footage, and I'm a little bit look. I think what's happening in Palestine is so important. But when I see the Palestine flags during this, I'm going, what are they doing there? Like, this isn't the same thing, guys. Like, there's no reason for the Palestine flags to be here right now. We got with democracy's on the line. Like, we can't stick up for anybody if we don't have any democracy. Whose streets? Our streets. That's the idea, nerds. Our streets.
I like this picture. Like,
Yeah.
It's kind of.
This one, these pictures you're taking remind me so much of when I was a kid. Those Humvees, like, they haven't updated the vehicles practically. Their garb looks a little bit different from when I was a kid, but these National Guard look exactly like they did during the LA riots.
Yeah.
And they mostly came and stood around. They did a little bit of shooting, but they mostly did did this. They stood around, looked tough. I don't know what this guy's doing with a mask on. Is he National Guard or is he ICE?
That was National Guard, I believe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it must
Yeah.
be. I see masks. I think national. I think ICE when I see masks.
Interesting.
What do you think? I don't know.
Does anybody know who this guy is? He's a journalist, and I wanted to tag him in some of my photos of him because I feel like they're really good photos.
Yeah, I know that guy.
If somebody can come up with his name
I
in
don't know who
the
that guy is.
in the chat.
Are these on the Google Photo Drive? I think we could
Yeah.
find it. Google search his face.
Oh, can you do it for me? I don't know how to.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
I can Google search his face and
I
find out
think
who
that's
he
a
is.
good photo. But
Yeah. So do you want to go and do activism now? Or you just want to keep documenting? What's the plan
No,
next?
I'm
What are you going to do?
I'm not a yeller screener holder of a banner. I'm best behind a camera and can pass out my cards to the media and be like, hey, I was arrested if you want to talk to somebody who was arrested. And I can tell you about my experience. Should my talking points be? Maybe this is our final minutes of this live stream. I go to the media. I can say 3 sentences on the air about this. What do I say? We were unjustly detained. I want to make the point of
You tell the story that the arc story is always there. I was peacefully minding my own business. They illegally detained me. I learned this thing. Like, that's the story. That's everybody. That's the common.
I was trying to get home to the metro station. They wouldn't let me by that street. They told me to go the other direction. When I went to the other direction, the police officers there said I couldn't leave unless I couldn't leave. And told me to wait until they heard orders. And then we were corralled. They came in on us and we were all placed under arrest. We weren't allowed to leave. We were charged with failure to disperse, but we wanted to disperse. We weren't protesting. And we were handcuffed, taken on a bus, and sent to the 77th community station. If this is the point I want to make, if the riots and the violence are so bad in Los Angeles, why did they arrest people who were peaceful and who just wanted to go home? I think that's probably the big. If the violence and the rioting is actually so bad, why did they waste resources arresting me when I just wanted to go home? This is what is it really about? This is about showing their power and scaring the community into silence. It's about their displays of power and silencing our community.
Yeah, it's about silencing our community and obstructing our rights. It's about not allowing us to have our rights.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
It's about silencing our community, obstructing our rights. It's an abuse of power, and we should not stand for this.
Yeah, exactly. It's abuse of power, and It's exactly,
We
and
should be
they're the
able
ones.
to go where we want.
Yeah, they're obstructing my rights. I think also, you know, they're the ones escalating, right? We're peaceful. There's not that many of us. There's hundreds of them. You know, I think that's a really good
Yeah,
point.
I think I have to say, like, we were outnumbered. And if there's so much violence in writing, why were they detaining us on this street when we didn't do anything? We just wanted to go home. Yeah.
We just wanted to go home. Like, they wouldn't let me go home. That'd be the top.
They wouldn't let me go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I had to do was I was just looking to pee.
No, I'm not going to say that.
But did she get to pee?
Not until I got home. I actually, like, I could have, but I was just like, the police station, it's like you had to wait for the female officer. I was cited and released before the bathroom freed up. So, and then I went over to jail support, and I'm like, I could have, like, gone across the street and knocked on doors and, like, but I just was like, I'm just going home. So good bladder control is, you know.
Thank God. It'd be really embarrassing if you peed yourself in the jail.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen.
No one would want to sit next to you.
The girl next to me had to pee too. I think she had to pee worse than I did.
Oh God, that sounds the worst.
Yeah.
This journalist doesn't want to be known. I get. Oh wait, who's this guy? Oh, maybe I have. No, I don't have him. They keep on showing me guys that look like him, but I can't find this guy.
I've seen him. If I scroll TikTok long enough, I'm sure I'll come up with his newscast. But nobody knows who he is.
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to look for him, but I can't find this guy's name. Now they're giving me a bunch of people in just white shirts.
Yeah. If anybody wants to go through the Google Photos too, let me I'll just share it in the chat. And if you know the names of any of these people that I photographed, please help me find them, and so we can tag them on social media.
Are you
and
sharing
also
the whole thing, or are you just sharing this album?
I'm
or what?
sharing the whole album. Feel free to take any of these photos, share them yourself on social media. You know, I hope you cite me as the source, but if not, you know, that's fine too, but I'd appreciate it. So the bigger social media following we get, which I've gained a ton of followers from this, so that's been positive. Because
get arrested, get followers.
Yeah, I mean, if some groups have learned that, I guess.
Yeah.
And really stroke that, really beat that drum until it's dead.
Yep.
But you know,
I wish I could zoom in and find this guy's press, like any badge, nothing. I don't see anything that says ABC or, you know, I don't even see any mic on this guy because he's got a lavalier. I think it might be are you sure he's he's not a politician, he's a journalist?
I'm pretty sure he's a journalist. Yeah, he looks like a politician though, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks like a politician. Yeah, I don't know. And you even have video of him, but I don't see anything that tells you no discerning symbols or anything. Dang it. Well, it could have been.
Well,
what are these white things? These are like, did they put them there?
Actually, I don't know what those are. That's a good question. I should have sussed that out. It really ruins the photo. I will say that. I was disappointed. Could have been a really good shot.
Maybe they erected from the ground.
Yeah, I think all of this comes down to allow cars and stuff to go through. Oh, and by the way, let me just go back. These birds are like, somebody wrote, the birds knew the assignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I just really appreciate that.
The birds followed the National Guard just looks bored.
Yeah. They got their shields up. Shields for what? Like their face masks and everything.
To be tough. They want to look tough.
But everybody there that day was super peaceful. Like there was nothing that was
Did
concerning.
you see
at
the
all.
thing about how Donald Trump tweeted like, because I did the thing with because I put the National Guard there, that everything's cool now. And he did it like 4 hours. He tweeted that 4 hours before the National Guard was there.
Wow, yeah.
Everything's peaceful now that this National Guard's there. And he tweeted it like 4 hours before the National Guard was there.
But
I
whatever
loved
our
it.
hero says, we believe.
Yes.
If you're a Trump supporter, you're just going to believe the narrative that LA's violence and riots and the military and National Guard need to come in there to like assert control over this unhinged situation.
What do you think about Gavin Newsom's speech last night? Did you watch it?
I think I saw some clip of it. What did he? Did you see his TikTok video? He did a TikTok video of the Taylor Swift song.
No, I don't follow anybody on TikTok.
Oh my God, it's so hilarious. It's the "Are You Okay" song. What's the?
I don't know.
I'm not going to sing it.
The
but
melody.
It's hilarious. It like if you say it in a tweet, it's a cop out. If you say it in the street, it's a knockout song. And it's Trump's tweets versus like what Trump and Gavin Newsom talking together, all friendly like.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I just think he's totally incompetent piece of garbage. I really like him, but he really is just a piece of trash. Like he's such a everything that Trump has said about him. I'm getting that question a lot. Like, how do you feel about Gavin Newsom? How do you feel about Gavin Newsom? And it's like, well, I have misgivings. I've got lots of problems with him. He's a politician. I don't worship heroes, but in this situation, I think he's doing a pretty good job. Like he's speaking truth to power. He's saying that we want to have a democracy. He's also backing up law enforcement. I mean, that was what you would expect from a governor, right?
Yeah. He's American Psycho. He's our psychopath. Don't date him. Nobody should date him.
No.
But let him be psycho. Let him
look
be
what he
our
just
psycho.
and
that's just true for the animal rights movement and anybody in general.
That's true. You shouldn't date Gavin Newsom. His ex
him.
ended up dating Don Jr. So
but be like, go do your psychopathic things that you do.
You know how weird that is, though, that Don Jr. dated his ex.
Yeah.
Guilfoyle. That's so wild to me. That just goes to show these people are all in the same circles at the end of the day. You know, they all know each other. They all go to the same parties. They all end up with the same spouses and partners. You know, it's so gross, so incestuous. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now she's ambassador to Greece, so she keeps her mouth shut about the Trump crime family. She's an ambassador to Greece now.
It's such parallels the animal rights movement.
Yes.
Too. It's like we have our own little microcosm of that. Like, and you get access to opportunities and power if you date the right people, or marry the right people, or like whatever. And then if you break up with one of these dudes, then you get lost fundings, false narratives spun about you, whatever. You're just jealous and resentful, and you're not doing anything good for the animals.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right. Except maybe the politicians are smarter because all they care about is power and money, and all we care about is, helping animals.
Oh, you don't
and
think
stuff.
the animal rights movement cares about power and money?
Oh,
I think the vast majority of people, especially the high end groups that have the millions of dollars, I think it's the same thing. It's like they're our psychopath. They're amassing the money and the power. So, and they're doing some good for the animals, I guess. But yeah, no, they're people you have a whole bunch of empathetic people, and then the narcissists come in and are like, oh, how can I amass power over this group of
I guess that's how politics are too, right? They get a bunch of people that want to help the citizens, and then some narcissists get in there and they ruin it for everybody. Mm-hmm. And then we get graffiti.
You just can't be naive about what is happening, and stick to your own morals. Don't be swayed by those people. You go on your path, but don't be manipulated. Don't let yourself be manipulated by these people. And I wish that's the number one thing. We could change the world if we just tell naive, empathetic people, train them not to be manipulated, and train them to trust their instincts. Don't
question authority.
Trust your instincts, question authority, and don't give up your decision making to people who seem to have the right answer, and don't lose trust in yourself and trust somebody else who always seems to know the right thing to say or the right thing to do, because maybe they don't actually, and maybe you're on the right path. And even if you can't debate them, still hold strong to your own beliefs and trust your instincts. Don't let anybody take that away from you.
I mean, you're basically just saying what I say every single day is to force authority to justify itself. And if it can't be justified, dismantle it. Sky, what do you have to do to get press credentials? Well, not all press credentials are created equal. I've had press credentials before. They literally are just pieces of paper. You don't need much. I think in this case, in this scenario, Crystal could have had a card and it would have worked.
Yeah, literally anything.
But yeah.
You can also join a press club like the LA Press Club or like a bunch of other ones if you want something. But yeah.
Yeah, you could join the Cub Reporters. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do. But you could also just make your own at the end of the day if you're an independent. People do it. Ain't the end of the world. It doesn't take much. But if you wanted to go into the White House press pool, you have to join you have to be part of the corps to get to be part of the press corps and get verified and vetted and blah blah blah. So they're not all created equal. But when I was a theater critic, I had press credentials, and you can walk into different places that you normally can't go, and you could talk to people, and you can do a little bit extra stuff. You get to go in VIP areas and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the show.
That is the show. It was a good show too, Crystal. Thank you for spending all this time, and thank you to Susan Krebsbach, for Dr. Susan, for hanging out with us and telling her story.
Yeah, that was great. And next week we'll have Dr. Andrew Knight on. So
Andrew Knight's great. I'm looking forward to that one. He's great too. I can't wait. Thank you everyone for joining. Make sure you join us are we doing FOIA Friday?
Yes, of course.
We're doing FOIA Friday. Make sure you join us at FOIA Friday at 4. And Ethical Underground on Sunday, where we're going to talk about graffiti. Probably no, we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. But I do want to bring up graffiti and hear what the boys have to say. Actually, it's just.
Can we have a time limit on that discussion?
Sure, of course we can. Okay. But Dre's not going to be there, so it's probably going to be short anyway. I just want to get Chip to weigh in.
Chip says there's no bad form of activism.
Does he?
Isn't he a no bad form of activism guy?
Is he?
Yeah, I think he is.
I don't know.
Well,
that's a good question.
On what his stance is on that.
I guess yeah, I'd love to know what he thinks. I don't know. I think he's
a Tosh Peterson is great guy.
He likes Tosh Peterson. Yeah. He does. I think that, but he also thinks that we should be identified by the government. So there you go. I completely disagree with him on that. So who knows? Maybe he'll be more like you. We should be respectful to the government and to the businesses and to the.
Maintain your trustworthiness as an activist.
While they're kidnapping our children. Yeah.
I think, there's a strong argument that can be made for if you're somebody with some money, put together a group of people who are going to protect people from ICE and rescue them.
Love it.
That's more effective than freaking spray painting and destroying and lighting Waymos on fire.
Well, okay, but what about the fact that what's it called? I forget the name. 404 Media, I think it's called. They released evidence that the police were using those Waymos, as surveillance tools.
Wow.
Does that
that didn't get in the news, and that didn't cross my feed, and that's kind of something.
They released photographs that were taken that the police had released that were from Waymos before they were vandalized, and from it's presumed that they were those Waymos. So could it have been a more thoughtful act than just I'm going crazy, I want to light a Waymo on fire? Maybe.
Yeah, if that's true, that story needs to be told.
I've been telling it, but the photos. I think it's on 404 Media. I'll send it to you. Well, I'll get it for Sunday. We'll talk about it a little bit on Sunday. We got to go. Thank you everybody for joining me. This is All Beings Considered. Joining us. My name is Skyjack Morgan. Follow on Skyjack Morgan YouTube, and that's Dr. Crystal Heath. And you can follow her on YouTube and Instagram, where you can see all of her awesome footage from her arrest and her harrowing tales. Anything else?
I think that's all.
Good. Here comes the second song that I made. Rate this 1 through 10, everybody. Goodbye.
Yeah, a scale of 1 to through 10. 1 being bad.
1 being the worst thing you ever heard, and 10 being, this is a decent jingle.
And have some standards, people.
Have some standards. I got an 8. I got an 8 for the last one. Bye, everybody.
And Taylor Swift deserves an 8.
Taylor Swift deserves an 8?
Like,
look at the explosion of water, huh? I like the graphic though.
okay.
Come on, the bubbling water, like the.
I guess it's okay.
I like it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. And thank you to Jackie Boyle and Veg in the Woods, who are helping support this channel. And we'll see you on Friday. Bye. 10. Paul gave it a 10.